Turn the music off. There we go. I got it. What's up, everybody?
Scary
Hey,
music.
Brendan. How you doing?
I'm scared. You have scary music. It's not okay.
Scary music for a scary school committee. That's right, folks. We're watching school committee tonight. It's just gonna be me and Brendan. Ashlyn Doyle might join us a little later in the evening, but we shall see about that. And it's probably going to be, I don't want to say it because I always jinx myself, but school committee is a little bit more competent than school city council. So I think that it will be shorter tonight.
I hope so.
I think that. And there's also no executive session. We all know and love how school committee does executive session at the beginning of the meeting, but there's no executive session tonight. So we will be all set on that. So I'll pull that up when we're ready to go. But Brendan, what's on your mind today? Anything?
Literally nothing. I'm just the snow has set me back 3 months. I'm trying to keep all my shades closed so the neighbors can't see that I'm here, and I'm still not shoveling. It's just a moral thing. No shoveling after April starts. I don't shovel savings.
Yeah, I had to get somewhere at 8:30 this morning, and I didn't even try to shovel. I just backed right over the snow.
I am told that the city did not put out a call for contractors until 8 o'clock this morning.
That sounds about right. I think that there was a just a normal pickup truck that was plowing King Phillips Road this morning, and I'm pretty sure that it was just a vigilante plow guy. It was somebody who's like, why isn't this road plowed? I'm just going to do it myself. because typically you don't assign pickup trucks to plow roads, even if they're side roads, unless they're really scrambling for guys.
I like that we have a vigilante plow guys.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
would fully
great.
support that.
Wayne Griffin is now blaming construction on Mill Street for lower crashes. Yeah, they're scrambling. They don't know what to do with Mill Street anymore. I think that Donna Clorio really jumped the shark on Tuesday. And I was happy to write about that because it was maybe the dumbest attack line I've ever seen a public official try to pull off. And another credit to Stephen Sargent. I mean, not Stephen Sargent, Paul Saucier for that one, for how he handled that, because
he could have played to the cranks. That up, man, because that was just going back, and sometimes it's hard while watching it and talking to each other to really get a sense of the tone of what was happening. Going back and rewatching it, and that was just an absolutely embarrassing display on behalf of Donna, and he did a really fantastic job of capturing that.
It was so obvious she was going for a gotcha, right? And it's like
totally.
The thing that completely blows up the gotcha is, one, extremely obvious to anyone who just has thought about it for 2 seconds. But two, it was the second sentence of the Chiefs report.
Right.
It's stunning that happened that way. But let's while we're waiting for the feed from the Worcester Public Schools, let's take a quick look at the agenda because I can do that. I will share my screen. It's a pretty light one today. Are we seeing this, or do I have to here? Really? Let's see here. How's that looking, Brendan?
That's good.
All right, good.
I did just see school choice, so I'm already having a hard time with the evening.
Yeah. Let's see here. $15,000 from Digital Federal Credit Union. That's great. Some recognitions. Ashland this week wrote about how this school committee is doing a lot of what are these things called? Recognitions. So I have a feeling that this might take up the bulk of the meeting because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commendations. So we'll see. Oh, and then another one here for the South High robotics team, which is cool. I didn't know we had a robotics team. We're going to have a report on special education. And then there's a few orders here. Nothing jumped out to me as being too fireworks laden. Jermaine Johnson wants an update on any grants that are going to supplement the budget. This one's irrelevant. Central Mass Collaborative, I don't know what that is. Aha, B. Carrier wants to talk about Worcester East Middle School. In case you guys aren't tired of that yet, we are going to have that discussion again. And then Binyenda here, this might be the most fireworks heavy one. Oh, that's really hard to read when you do that. To modify FY25 budget schedule to include a report on the proposed cost to school and personnel due to the budget deficit. So we'll see how that goes, but then that's it. So, this might be a yes. Yeah. Just nobody. I think you're right about that. The Binyenda budget cut one has the most potential for spiciness, but it seems like it's kind of easy to avoid that. And as Ashland pointed out in her school committee preview this week, May 10th is when the budget stuff is going to start happening in earnest, and sort of any conversation before that initial budget document gets back to the school committee is pretty pointless and just reactionary. So that's Maureen Bienenda's whole shtick, is being pointless and reactionary. So,
yes.
It makes sense that she would file that. Let's see. We got a feed yet? No. No, we do not. Let me check the Zoom. This is always a fun game of school committee.
How's your mouse doing tonight, Bill?
Oh, I remember to charge it for about 20 minutes.
Nice.
So I think that's going to get me enough juice to get through this, but we'll see. The webinar will begin soon. So yeah, school committee has not started yet, but that's all right. That's weird that it shifted over to my Zoom screen. We don't need that. I'll just keep both open for now. Still haven't figured out how to get the audio on Zoom. I think that's been a problem every single time I've hosted the stream and tried to go to the Zoom, is that the audio never plays.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very good point, Ruth. Boring is entertaining, but it's usually very good for the city's students. For the first 3 years of this show, we saw no point in covering school committee.
Yeah,
because it was boring, and the boring was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's not boring, and it's way worse. So
it's so much worse.
Yeah, it's so much worse. Quick update for book club people. Check your inboxes. We are going to do the first book club on Thursday, April 18th at 7 p.m. And in the email are links to PDFs of the reading material, the intro in chapter 1 of 8 hours for what we will. It's only 30 pages of reading, but it is very dense 30 pages. So there's going to be a lot to talk about in there. And that's fun. I'm excited for that. And to hear what people thought about that book, 'cause it's just so interesting. Also, very exciting for me personally. I got a bird in the oven right now. I got a 6-pound chicken.
Nice. You might be able to eat it at a normal time tonight.
I think that I will be.
That's nice.
Yeah, we certainly won't be here till 11:30.
Oh, thank goodness. Do you think that's part of the reason why we end up with cantankerous local officials is like they don't manage their diets well and they all come into meetings like hangry? Like we know that 2, for example, bring snacks. When do you see 2 get enraged and start yelling irrationally at people or picking fights with the chief of police?
Right.
Almost never. I think we figured out the problem is these other folks just aren't managing their diet well.
Right. They need a little snack time.
Yeah.
All right. So my Zoom was starting, but the Facebook feed is not starting. So we are going to have to go by Zoom. So bear with me as I try to figure this out. No, you're not getting audio on that. I don't think you are.
No audio.
Okay.
Are you opening a tab on a browser?
Yeah, it tells me that I need to share a tab to have audio, which
if it's coming through a browser tab, if it's Chrome, there's probably an icon up in the toolbar itself that's signaling you to give it permissions for audio.
Yeah, no, like when I go to share the screen, it says Oh, never mind. I got the Facebook feed now.
Sweet.
Gallantly streaming, and the rockets bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watch.
We got it?
Yeah.
We're so gallantly streaming.
Epic. I'm sorry, man. This stuff's hard for me. Oh, are you kidding me? Why is it just playing a 21-second loop? Are you guys seeing this?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's watch that.
Yeah. Okay. Worcester Public Schools is live now. And now if I go to full screen, that's right.
I know you want to amend it, you said.
Yes.
All
Madam
right.
Chair, I'd like to address this item to thank all the whole community who were instrumental in their support to the students and staff of Columbus Park School and its neighborhood in dealing with the
I don't know.
tragic
I don't know
death
how
of
Travis
Cassidy
does
and
that every
Zella
week.
Nunez on March 5th.
As amended, and also I'd like to amend the next item to consider awarding honorary high school diploma to Mr. Richard F. Gaffney, Senior, U.S. Air Force, and on his 90th birthday, and send that to the superintendent.
Chat, how's the audio mix here?
Amend that to send it to the superintendent.
It's amazing that we are giving out honorary diplomas for people who didn't finish high school, but we're still bickering about whether or not we'll let a kid who's supposed to graduate if they take one more class.
Advisor for success at the regionals. All right. Member McCullough?
Thank
Man,
you.
the
And I'm so
gating they
happy
have
that
on
we
these
were all able to
microphones
make it
here.
tonight, in spite of the weather and the crazy day for April. And just so excited to have you here. You know, the South High Robotics team, I had heard about when they made it to regionals. I started getting all these phone calls from teachers.
I saw a
at
super sick
South because
Instagram
they couldn't
reel
say enough
of
about this team and how we needed to
a
help
battle
this team
robot
make sure
that had
they
like a
got there,
crack lighter on
because
it,
they couldn't say
and it would
enough
just
about
light the other
how
robots on
outstanding the
fire.
Nice.
of young men and
Yeah.
women, their advisor, all were, and what it meant to their school community and how important it was to South High. So I'm just so happy to have you here tonight to recognize you for all your success. And I'm sure that the mayor and superintendent have more to say than I do. So thank you for being here and congratulations.
Thank you. And I think this is for the robotics. Oh, why don't you guys all come up in front here?
Why am I here again?
Hey, come up on sit on
So
Daddy's
as the
lap.
team is coming up, I really want to
Um,
commend the
I was
scholars
at the DCU
and
Center
the,
last night
advisor
for AEW
who
wrestling,
not only
and
represent
one of the
Worcester with
wrestlers'
such
name was
dignity,
Daddy
intellect,
Ass,
and
which I thought
brilliance,
was great.
but
Just
your
Daddy
teacher, he
space
has so
ass.
much passion, as you know, and
apparently his move
excitement
is
about
scissoring.
robotics.
So,
It's
lot going on there.
contagious. And so, and we can all see he's relatively new. You probably might think he is one of the students, but he is not. He's the one. And so I can't wait to see what happens with South High and robotics throughout Worcester.
Yeah, it was a really good time. I'm not a
South
huge
also
wrestling guy. I don't really
hosts our
know much
elementary
about it.
athletics. So, with that, I'll
but
turn it back to you.
Watching it
Okay.
live is a really
Thank
cool
you, Madam
experience. I'm happy
Superintendent.
that
And again,
I was-
congratulations. Job well done. And
got some
I
free
was lucky
tickets.
enough
Got to get there.
attend at the Bancroft School when you were in competition. Get to see you in action. You did a great job. Mr. Jones, good job coaching them, and even robotics can be very stressful sometimes, I know this, but a lot of pressure, but you came through. You made us all proud here in the city of Worcester. Well, we do have some recognitions I'd like to hand out. And it says, Worcester School Committee Certificate of Recognition presented to the scholars regional competition with the best 100 teams from Massachusetts.
I'm actually-
Connecticut, and Rhode Island, signed by myself, the superintendent, and the school committee.
late on this news
The
here
first
about,
person
so
is
Eric put out
Ian
a statement
Nguyen.
about the rental registry. I gotta check that out.
Luke Allard? Luke?
I think we're all irritated. It's coming up 2 years after the
Let's
vote.
stay up here. If you like, we can rotate through.
Yeah, it's so
Oh,
stupid.
around
I mean,
there.
I couldn't imagine being in Eric's shoes. you
Chanel
know?
Arch.
No.
Congratulations, great job. Is it William?
Imagine how
Fields?
bad you have to
Fields?
be as humans to start making, after this amount of time, start making Eric and the chief of police sympathetic
Charlie
characters in
Morrow?
this narrative.
No. yeah. It's like Donna on what's it called?
Is it Ariana?
Mill Street and Candy Merrill
Constable?
Carlson, especially on the
Dr.
rental
Duck? I
registry,
can't-
have
I can't
just
see it.
really made Eric look good, which is
Owen
stunning.
Cohane? Okay. Congratulations.
The other thing that came up, Bill, around the same time that I don't know when it's going to come back to the
Jacob?
council. Remember they were discussing doing aerials of all the properties in the city for assessment purposes?
Oh yeah, George Russell hated that one.
George really, and that was the night that we started looking up counselors' yards on Google Earth and we found Kate's swimming
It's
pool
the font.
that isn't
Yeah,
on the
right.
assessment file. Yeah, that's going to be fun when that one comes back.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Was it Ariel?
That's really damning for
Congratulations.
our little local media economy that no one picked up the
Oracle
ball on Kate's illegal swimming pool.
Congratulations.
You know, like, say what you will about Turtle Boy Sports, but
Charles
back when he
Allison.
was in his covering Worcester
Charles,
Prime,
Congratulations.
that would have been such a perfect little snotty nose article for
Okay,
him.
if everybody wants to
Yeah, that would have
see
been a nice
height in the
wisteria
middle here,
item back in the
Yeah.
Warshaw days.
we will
Yeah,
get a-
true.
School committee will come around. They'll take a nice little.
That's actually a perfect wisteria item.
Come in here. Oh, wonderful.
All right, we just have to do this 6 more times. I think I might have actually read the agenda wrong.
Oh, they brought in a death robot.
Wow, they have a death robot. And it's not us. The feed is really blurry.
Is can you go down to settings and see if it's possible to bump up the resolution on it?
Settings auto 720. Nah, 720 is the highest. But that looks like worse than 720, honestly.
Yeah.
Let me try to refresh it. Let's see. No one steal my password. No, 720. Okay. Nah, I think we're stuck with
I'm
this.
on the agenda for 2 minutes. Just want to thank the South High Robotics team again. Thank you, Greg. Great job.
It looks a
Appreciate
little
it.
better. I can't tell, honestly.
And the parents too. Thank you. Appreciate being here.
I'll see if I can pull it up as well, though.
Yeah, we can do a side by side.
Okay, we have public comment. Anybody can speak on any item on the agenda for 2 minutes. Anybody want to speak? You don't have. to.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Just go around on fuck, baby. I heard Fred
Now
Nathan.
we
So
have,
Ashley told me that Fred Nathan spoke at like a
Everybody all
subcommittee
set?
meeting
Okay,
for
we
the
have
school
report of the
committee.
superintendent,
Um,
prioritizing special education.
So he's really
program
getting deep into the
needs. Madam
weeds.
Superintendent.
Thank you. Excuse me. Through the chair, as the team comes up and we've got a dynamic team presenting this evening, because we're talking about special education. And so special education in itself is almost like a district within a district, especially a district the size of Worcester when we have over 20% of our student population represented. in our
Imagine
special
Eric giving
education
reports like
programs.
this.
So we have Dr. Marie Morris, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, Dr. Tammy Murray, our Director of Special Education and Intervention Services, Gina Kramer, our Assistant Director of Special Education Intervention Services, and Amanda Martinez, a Special Education Focused Instructional Coach. So committee, tonight, what you will hear are our current status.
Yeah, they
of
just look terrible.
Special education programs in the
Yeah.
district.
And the
I want you to
microphones
pay
are super
close
gated.
attention to- You're gonna, it's special education.
gotta
so
be
there's
the
a
same
lot of
gear as,
acronyms that we're gonna do our best to
City council, it's the same room.
spell
So I
out
don't
for
understand
you
why it's so
because you
different.
can get lost in the acronyms, especially in special education. But you're going to hear a lot about least restrictive environment, or LRE, which is another way of talking about inclusive learning experiences and opportunities for our youth who have an active IEP to learn with their general education peers in the general education setting with appropriate accommodations and the necessary training that still is needed, and how we can provide services in that general education setting so that our special education youth can achieve that, like we know they can. And so I want you to pay close attention to the slides where we talk about where the children are located. That's really important to where we're going as a district, because I don't want anyone to think that this is not possible. It's absolutely possible for us to have robust, inclusive learning environments. Really all means all, but you would need to understand how our students, the number of students we have and where they're located. So pay close attention to that. And any acronym or something you hear, because special education is can become very confusing, please write it down so we can clarify it for you, because there's a lot to take in all at once in this presentation. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Morse. Thank you.
Dr. Morse?
Good evening. We're pleased to be here tonight to share with you our presentation, All Means All. And in order to give this presentation a lot of justice, this team worked very hard to prepare this presentation to give you a very broad understanding of the work that's underway and the work that we will be embarking upon in the future. So to the next slide, please. In every presentation, you're going to become accustomed to seeing this slide. And this is the lens by which all district efforts move through. It's our strategic plan, our superintendent's goals, our school growth plans, and then our high priority, high leverage actions that we're looking to be able to accomplish this year. Vision of a learner, grade
I know, we gotta
reading,
get them
and
over
student
here.
Engagement. So this is our theoretical.
A lot more
framework and
people
outline
watch
for
school
our
committee
work.
than watch
Oh, yeah.
city
The next
council.
slide
I've found.
is the piece of the strategic plan that we're speaking to specifically. this
I'm wondering
evening,
how many of
and that is equitable
that is
resources and educational programs.
administration.
And we have three
tuning
main
in,
aims, and tonight.
or
we'll
like a
hear
mix
about
of
how
administration
special
and parents?
education Is working hard to meet these aims in the equitable resources.
Like in
Yeah.
City Hall, nobody watches
components
city
of the
council.
district.
If it doesn't impact them
And our
directly,
next
they're just
slide
not paying attention to it.
Is the desired outcomes and for all of you. We hope that you learn more.
No, I
about
guess it makes sense
current
because like
state of
that's the
special
biggest.
education. We hope that you
um,
gain a better understanding of the audit findings and some recommendations that the
like,
audit
What am I
found.
trying to say? Department
you
in the
receive
city.
Information about where we
Yeah,
are.
so
with
that's
our
a lot
next
of
steps
employees that are
and work that is
directly
currently
affected by the
underway.
decisions that happen
And we
here.
hope most of
Yeah.
all that you share an understanding of our future vision for special education. It's inclusive.
Whereas
nature,
absolutely
meaning
nobody
all
is
means
impacted
all.
by something like
So
George
at
Russell's
this point, I'm going to turn the
2 hour
majority of the body of this
fucking
presentation
Worcester
over
East Middle
to
thing
Dr. Tammy Murray, Gina Kramer,
on Tuesday. You know,
and,
that's just that was for precisely one
Amanda
person
Martinez.
himself.
Amanda, I knew your last name. I'm sorry. I was struggling with your first name. So thank you. So over to Gina. Or, sorry, Tammy.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Morse. So we're going to talk about the current state of special education, and we're going to start with
Oh,
the
geez,
special
our logo
education
is
enrollment by
blocking
disability.
their
So as you
screen.
can see from this slide here, our highest this slide is listed from the highest percentage of students that have disability to the lowest
No.
percentage throughout the district. So as you can see in the red outlines.
Where's the
square
no
here, we
logo
have
button?
Specific learning disabilities at our highest category.
There
It's
we
also
go.
broken down by Worcester Public Schools special education students, and there's a comparison to the state percentage. So for specific learning, we're at 26.4%. I'm not going to go through all the percentages, but that's clearly the highest one. These are students that have specific disabilities with reading, writing, and math, and they have difficulty with processing in those areas, followed by autism, developmental delay, communication, emotional, and health. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these. I just do want to mention the developmental delay would refer to students that are under the age of 9 and have a delay in more than one area.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
when we
In
talk
order to
about
get
our
anything useful out of the
students
city
throughout the
council meetings,
district,
you need to
we
kind of
have
read the whole agenda yourself.
5,453
But there's
students
no
with
there's no
disabilities throughout
information
the
that's
district.
shared. Like
And as you can see,
which
we
is
have
telling
most of our
because
students are fully
they
included or partially included. So 70% of the
just
students
don't
across the district
see the public
are
as
in these
the
types of
audience or
settings.
constituency.
We have 21% of our students who are in subset.
You have to read all the
substantially
information,
separate
background
classrooms,
information yourself,
meaning that there
and then
is
wonder when the meeting starts
a
what
smaller
background information they
student to
read
teacher
because it was
ratio.
clearly a different book.
And then we have our
Yeah,
English language
it's usually
learners.
none of
These
it.
are our students
Their
who are
own book
dually
club.
diagnosed, so they are our students with disabilities and who are also our English language learners. And then we have our most restrictive setting, which tends to be our out of district placements at 8.6%. The other thing I just want to highlight on this slide is the demographics that we have throughout the district. Our highest category is our Hispanic population, which is 51%, followed by our white population and then our African American population. The next slide talks about placement by school type. And you can clearly see that most of our students, again, are fully included within
Yep, you
the
absolutely
general
do.
education
It's like one of
classroom.
the core
At the
functions of
elementary
Worcester Sucks
level,
is
it's the highest
explaining
level, and then middle
the
school,
erudite petty
is,
towny
you know,
beefs that
less
inform
students that
each
are
each city
in
council
substantially
item.
separate classrooms. And then in high school, there's even less. So I think overall, this slide really points out that we have a lot of students who are fully included or partially included in the general education classrooms. We also have, on this slide, you can also see the difference between students that are included fully and partially versus students that are in substantially separate classrooms, and then our most restrictive classrooms as well. The next slide talks about disabilities by gender. This is no surprise to those of you that are familiar with special education. We have a large percentage of males with disabilities across every category, with the exception of sensory and vision. So as you can see, more males than females with disabilities. At this point, I'm going to pass it along to my colleague, Gina Creamer, to talk about our programs.
Thank you, Tammy. So on this slide, you can see where we've bulleted our future vision for our department. Our vision for the Worcester Public Schools Special Education Department is one that embodies success and growth in all of our scholars. While we always strive to achieve that least restrictive environment, we need everyone to understand we're truly committed to providing programs that meet the specific needs of all of our students. Looking at the first bulleted point, inclusivity and forward-thinking approaches to prepare all of our students for life beyond that classroom. We're staying committed to adhering to state and federal regulations, including the Individuals with Disability Act. And we're going to continue to strive to provide an education that prepares our students for future success while promoting that inclusion and accessibility within those least restrictive environments. The next slide is a nice visual. This is the least restrictive environment, sort of continuum, sort of outlines for us, looking from left to right, how we are going to try to approach every day in our schools, starting with that least restrictive environment. This would be our general education setting. After that, we're looking at those regular gen ed classrooms where we're going to be supporting our students with accommodations and modifications so that they can be with their general education peers, but with those supports so that they can be successful. The next one would be that regular classroom, but with some pull-out services. Some of our students do really well in that gen ed setting with their typical gen ed peers, but they might require some extra of that pull-out just so that they can continue to achieve success. After that would be our separate classrooms, all students having IEPs. And then after that, we have the separate school settings. This would be where most of the students there have similar disabilities. We have home education, and then from there, we would move to that. There, we're looking at that most restrictive environment. Next slide, please. And this is where Amanda is going to introduce some of the programs that we offer in the Worcester Public Schools.
Thank you, Gina. So looking at this slide, really what we're going to look at here is where we are helping and providing those services for our students across their day. A few of the more least restrictive settings that we have. The first one on the slide is the integrated preschool. We actually have 3 models of our preschool where we have an integrated, a sub-separate, and a full day. So this integrated is our least restrictive. We also have inclusion that Gina was talking a little bit about before, where we're looking at students who may need some pull-out services. They get some specialized
I was put
instruction provided
into
for their, getting the
special
academic
education
success that we're looking
reading and
for.
writing
They may
class
also
in
have the
middle
pull-out
school because my
services and a
handwriting was
mixture
so
of
bad.
that with inclusion.
And
We
it
also
was
have
sick.
speech
We spent
for
like the
students who need
whole
support with their identified
class just
communication
reading like one book,
disabilities.
like
We
actually
have
talking about it.
occupational
and,
therapy
like,
or physical
I think it's
therapy
of mice and men.
provided by
and
itinerants for
I was
gross
like, this
and
class is
fine
so much
motor
better than normal
therapy.
English class.
We also have.
I had,
support
I
for
like
our
legitimately
students who are
learned
deaf
more
and
from
hard
it.
of hearing. And these
My handwriting
services
is
are helping
still
them
like it's
to have that social
indecipherable.
development,
I have a
to,
hard time
you know,
understanding what
in
my own
spite of being
handwriting.
deaf and hard of hearing.
But they didn't have
We
like
also
special
have our
programs
students who get more
for like
support
individual
within
things
the
like that.
language area for
So
their
they just pulled me
language
out
learning
every
disabilities
couple
with the
times a
lab
week to
classroom.
have a facilitator
then-
actually help me work on it. But I've always actually been
Next slide, please.
curious. Like, I guess let me ask the question: Do you feel that your ability to go to college afterwards helped any potential offset from you being pulled out of a traditional classroom?
Did it hurt? Was I hurt by it?
No,
or-
no. Do you think you would have been hurt by that had you not had the opportunity to go on to university or whatnot?
Oh no, I don't know. I don't actually know about that.
Because I didn't go to college. I mean, I'm going to college now. I've taken classes here and there, but I always got bored and just kind of walked away. But I always kind of wonder
Okay,
what would
so
have
the next
happened to me
slide
had I
is
not
where
had the
we're getting into
opportunity
the
to
more
stay in a traditional
restrictive. So this
classroom
might be where
because
we
of
have
something
students
weird like
who
handwriting.
need more of a separate setting.
Yeah.
They need some additional supports in
Yeah,
different areas.
it
So some of those
I found it
supports
to
might
be.
under the emotional
I was like
disability
very
area,
confused as to
where
why
they
I was
need a
there.
highly
But
structured
it was like legit,
therapeutic
like
setting where they're getting
5 or
specialized
6 kids
instruction
in the
with their
class,
emotional support.
and we took our time.
We
and,
also
like,
have our
actually
students who
learned
have
stuff.
autism,
It
Yeah.
was,
and they're getting
and it was
programming
pretty cool.
provided to them through sub-separate setting. And then we also have our life skills classrooms that can support students with various.
Luckily, by the
cognitive
time
and
that I was going to
developmental
college,
delays.
handwriting was completely
Gina
irrelevant.
is going
Yeah.
to then talk about some other restrictive.
I basically just gave up on handwriting
So
because
these
I was
are
like,
our
wow,
last
well,
two
I have
programs that we have on
computers
this
and a
slide is our
phone.
transition program. These
no
are
one
for
has to read my
students
handwriting but
who
me.
qualify under the 18
I think it's
22
just because
services. This program
it being
provides
Autism
our
Awareness
students
Week
in
and
the Worcester
whatnot.
Public schools with those
And
adult living skills.
I've
where
come
they're gonna
across this week a
practice some of that
couple
vocational work so that they
pieces
can be
like
successful
comparing
and hopefully
Einstein
living as
to like
independent as they possibly
trying to take a
can.
look at Einstein the way he would have
Then
been
we have
dealt
the
with
Academic
in
Center
a
for
traditional
Transition.
education
This is a
model in the United
5
States
program.
today.
This is a
Right.
Where like
therapeutic
being
day school
nonverbal till he
program
was
that
3
provides
and
that
just an
really
all around really
specialized
weird guy,
emotional
like
support for students
probably
that,
would have been in a
that's
special
their
ed
primary
program and
disability.
probably
And then
would
the
not
last one we
have
have on the
done well
slide is our Worcester
as a
Alternative.
result.
Right.
So we have Ian Ortiz here to speak for the Worcester Alternative School.
Good evening.
Yeah,
I am
that's very
the
much
Coordinator of Worcester Alternative School, and I am honored to
like
speak with you
writing
about
is
the
just the
amazing
way that
things
writing
going
is
on in our
taught
Public Day
these
program.
days.
This past year, our
Or
staff and
even like
students
when I was in school,
experienced
it's
a
like I didn't have
transition
anybody
from
teach
the
me
old St.
how to
Casimir
like
on
actually
Waverly Street
do
to our
writing
new
until I
building
got to
on 11
college.
McEwen
Yeah.
Road.
So
Although
it
we were
was, it
worried
just like
about
wasn't
what
something.
this move would bring to us,
I
it
was taught
was-
how to like
it
write the
resulted in an
5-paragraph
incredible
essay I needed to do
transformation
for
for
the
our
MCAS,
program.
and that was
Yep.
it.
I am so proud of both my staff and students for the phenomenal job acclimating to the new leadership and the building location. I want to acknowledge my amazing staff for coming together as a team, identifying the strengths of each member of our community and capitalizing on each other's unique qualities. My staff is bringing out the best in their students and each other every day. Several of them are here with me this evening, even though they have the day off. Our student population struggled in their large comprehensive school setting and benefit from a setting of a small, structured therapeutic environment with highly engaging individualized lessons. At our
Really
program, we are
curious
committed
to see if
developing
any of
connections
our
with our students so they feel a
crank
sense of
school
belonging.
committee members are going to try to take
We
a stab at this
accentuate their
one.
unique qualities
I
so that they
just
feel
don't
good
know how
about
you do that and
themselves,
not
and
completely
support our
embarrass
students to
yourself,
develop a
you
sense
know?
of pride and confidence that encourages them to come to school each day
But
despite any personal struggles
They
and
find a way.
challenges. By listening to various stakeholders, groups, and most importantly, surveying our students, it became clear to us that our kids have a resounding interest in the arts. This became a call to action for our school community. Our students foster creativity and expression through highly engaged classes where they can practice critical thinking skills and enhance emotional development. So we wanted to give the students more opportunities to explore cultural diversity and develop their cognitive skills. Our classes now encompass the visual and performing arts that tap into several of our students' strengths and allow them to handle constructive criticism. Through this, we have seen an improvement in academic achievement and mental focus. Our art educator, Stacy Lloyd, who is with us this evening, has been providing our students with incredible opportunities to showcase their artwork. Last month, our students were invited to display their art at the Pop Fusion
Artwork.
exhibit at UMass Memorial Medical Center at the university campus. This exhibit was made possible through a partnership between Creative Hub, Worcester, and UMass Memorial Healthcare. And it provided our students with valuable insight into the business side of creating art. We are proud to share that nearly half of the pieces on display were purchased by visitors to the hospital. Their artwork is still hanging on the wall for visitors to view. In addition, our students participated in Creative Expressions, an after-school program, 3 times a week. Here they can explore a range of artistic medium and techniques beyond their regular art class. The program included fashion and design, giving the students an opportunity to learn practical skills in the industry. Our students are creating a mural in our school, which is an ongoing project. It has a much deeper meaning beyond the aesthetic value. Its intent was to create something meaningful and impactful for our students. Each student was asked to give a word that resonated with them, a word that represented
I just
who
seen
they
that now,
are and
Amber.
what they
Yeah, I
want
mean,
others to know
and going
about
back to the
them.
mid 90s, the only
responses were
females that you
sincere
ever
and
saw
honest.
getting
The mural is called
any
Tapestry
sort
Words,
of what's the word I'm
showcasing
looking
our
for?
students' journeys and struggles and feelings. In addition to these
An
great
IEP
opportunities,
for
Safety's
school,
program
especially the high
has
school
become
level.
a
They were
safe
all
place,
young
a
women who
judgment-free
had
zone for our students to
physicians as
focus on
parents
self-reflection,
and like knew the system enough to be able to get them. And they were kids who
self-discovery,
did fine
while
in high
giving
school, but
them a
suddenly
sense of
those are the ones that
control
had
and
like
empowerment.
untimed SATs or
Our
whatever.
clinical
This is all
team,
pre-MCAS.
Ina Perez and
But all
Karen
the
Phillips,
ADHD
along with
kids,
Ms. Lloyd,
we
have
were all
collaborated to
tucked
design
away in art
hands-on
classes,
projects that
so
allow
nobody had to
students
deal
to
with
use
us.
art to
But it
aid
was great because like we had way more
emotional
fun. Like we
processing,
were all the drug
develop
seeking, like
deeper
cool music listening
self-awareness, and
people and
improve positive
kind
social,
of did our own thing.
emotional skills. The current project, Anger Pets, involves the students creating sculptures out of clay to express their anger and understand its various components. Our music teacher, Aaron Mott, built a music recording studio at his home that we brought in pieces to the school.
Well,
This space allows the students an opportunity to learn how to write, produce, record music in a professional studio. In
What?
this
That's
controlled
sick.
environment for recording and mixing, students have access to high-quality equipment and the opportunity to practice as an engineer. As a motivator, students practice their articulation skills so that they can produce the words they want their listeners to hear.
whoa,
Our
that's
students are
super
working
sick.
with their
That's
writing
like
teachers
better
to create
than
lyrics
band
that
at
fit
this
Yeah.
time, at this
in
point.
best structure.
That's like
To
closer to
complete our
what real
music
working
program,
musicians do than
One of our
anything you
teachers,
learn in
Dennis
band.
Vaness, who is also here, is
That's
a
really
published
sick. I should
author.
do a
He
feature
has
on
used
that
his
program,
context to
honestly.
provide
That's actually
two amazing
rad,
guest
yeah.
speakers who are donating their
I mean,
time.
it's similar to
Parrish
going
Smith
back to
from
what you were
EMD
you found
visited our
writing
school to
as
discuss his
a
experience in the music
as an
industry
outlet,
and
but you had to
delivered
wait
the
till
message of
somebody actually stepped
harnessing
in
the
and really
power
showed you how to write.
to defeat your struggles.
Just doing the high
Our
level
school
stuff
is
for
doing a
everybody,
whole
you
school
miss so many
read
people along
of
the way.
10
Like
ways to
teaching
not
somebody
to
who wants
commit
to communicate
suicide,
through
written
music
by
to
legendary
communicate through
rapper
music while
Darryl
they're young is
McDaniel
fantastic.
from Run
Right.
DMC. This autobiography tells how he persevered to be one of the most celebrated artists in music history. On May 22nd, we are honored that Daryl
Yeah, that's how
McDaniel will
you
be
find a
coming to
real
our
spark
school
in a
to
kid.
speak with
You,
our
you like
students.
get them
This year, with the shift in
like
our
in front of
focus on arts,
Ableton or something
added
for
a
the first time
focused
in their life,
business
and
program
if
taught
they
by
take to
Janine
it, you're gonna
Edmonds.
learn pretty quickly. If
Here,
they take to
students
it.
develop
And that's
marketing
really all
awareness,
it takes for a skill like that. It's
problem
just
solving skills, how to operate a business, and how to
getting your foot in the
recognize
door,
the
and then
attitudes
it's just
that are
trial and error
necessary
after
to
that.
be a success in the workplace and a true leader. Personal financing is also a focus that the students can independently structure their personal expenses. As we move forward, we will continue to develop partnerships with community agencies to place our students in jobs as they progress towards post-secondary life. Presently, we have 11 students employed through Worcester Youth Works and 5 additional students employed through the support and guidance of our adjustment counselors. As our school does not warrant many of the specialists supporting the larger comprehensive schools, we
It's
do
so much
have a jail
fun.
of all trades.
I
Her name is Shelley Ham.
I'm,
And she has
I'm a
been
Reaper guy
maintaining her
myself.
Google
but
training
once I
certification
learned
since the
Reaper,
pandemic, and Worcester Public Schools has sponsored her
I
participation
lost.
in
I spent a
becoming
couple good years
certified
on
by the
Reaper.
International Society of Technology and Education. Shelley works to bring future-ready skills to both staff and students in her role as innovative teacher leader. She also works closely with the district-focused instructional coaches and the Q team to bring our staff professional development, which is aligned with the district initiatives. As part of our school's mission, we are making connections with our school's community. We are building relationships and promoting community service. Several students supervised by staff are volunteering at the Village, which is located just a block away from our school. Students are providing services needed to help support both the staff and clients living there. Students engaged in this project are not only making a difference in the lives of others, but also shaping themselves into compassionate and socially responsible adults. Now that we have discussed some of the remarkable initiatives crafted by the faculty, I would like to share the restructuring of our school. We have merged from 5 teams
Main South Mom,
to 3.
we're on the first
Um,
item, which is the
2 of the
special
teams
education
consist of
report.
4 core academic
And there's been a
teachers,
couple interesting nuggets,
each responsible for
but,
only
you
one
didn't really miss
discipline as
anything,
opposed to several.
um,
One team
of
consists of 9th and 10th
significance, I
graders and the
suppose.
other 11th and 12th graders. Our third team includes the ESL, foreign language, art, music, and business teachers who service both teams. Each day, these teams have a common planning period to collaborate, invite caregivers to create student learning and success plans, and complete the PLC work we started this year to rebrand our school. The district initiatives such as Vision of a Learner and Culture and Climate are embedded into our everyday practices and have become an integral part of our daily activities. We have created a logo for the school. This new logo communicates a message of change, progress, and forward thinking. The large W in the center representing Worcester signifies the school's connection to its community.
Is this Travis's
The gold
logo?
swoosh forming the A for alternative represents innovation, creativity, and a fresh perspective. Our logo symbolizes the school's commitment to offering alternative and unique education. We hope this will this will signify to stakeholders that the school is evolving and adapting to new trends and staying relevant in a dynamic environment. In closing, I would
gotta check on my bird.
you with what the staff and students of Worcester Alternatives this year have developed and embodied as a vision. Worcester Alternative is
I think it's way
empowering
too soon to
potential
know,
and
Camber.
always embracing change. We seek to cultivate a dynamic learning environment where every student is empowered to unlock their full potential, embrace change as a catalyst for growth, and become resilient, innovative leaders prepared to thrive in an ever-evolving world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
So thank you, Ms. Ortiz, and thank you to the staff. I know you're here in a couple of different locations. So exciting to hear everything that you've been doing. And before we go back to the official presentation, committee, we asked Ms. Ortiz and her team to come and share what's been going on because there is an item that's still held that we were supposed to bring back tonight, which had to do with the renaming of the Worcester Alternative Program.
Oh,
And
man, the
we-
bird's looking good.
Ms. Ortiz and her team have asked that we continue to hold that while they work through not just the vision, but what would be the name that they want and how to also honor Mike O'Neill and the work that he provided. So the
Hey, but I think there's
staff and
almost
the
certainly going to be
students
teacher
are still
layoffs.
working through it, and they'll bring something to us that then we'll bring back. So we didn't put it on the agenda for you.
But it is too early to
But we
tell.
did want you to know that we haven't lost it. The staff and and you can hear the dynamic leadership and the creativity that's happening. They'll bring something back that encompasses everything and shows where the school is going for the future. So just wanted to give you that information, okay? I'm going to turn it back to our special education team. Thank you.
So we'll continue with the special education program statistics, and Gina will present this slide.
So on this slide, it outlines for you, we service 5,453 students in the Worcester Public Schools on an IEP. We have a number of programs of 9, and we have 32 schools that host our programs. And when we look at the staff to student ratio, we are at 1 staff to 4.28. I do want to highlight too, that when we're talking about staff, we are talking about highly qualified teachers of moderate special needs, specialty service providers such as BCBAs, speech and language pathologists, OT, behavior specialists. So it's a very qualified team that support our students. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Murray, and she's going to go over the findings and recommendations.
Okay, so the findings from our AIR report are as follows. So the purpose of the program review, which many of you know, was to examine the quality and efficiencies of special education services and identify our program needs. So the type of review was a mixed method review. It involved 6 interviews with administrators, 8 focus groups, including staff and families, document reviews of policies, procedures, and also they did look at our Worcester Public School website. We had 2 surveys that were completed one was by staff and the second one was by parents and guardians. They also looked at a sample of our IEPs. The time frame was 7 months from last June until last December. Next slide. So there are 4 key areas that were addressed throughout the program review. The first area was policy, systems, and procedures, followed by programming, instruction, and staffing, and then resources and professional development, and then communication and family community involvement. Next slide. So as far as our policies, systems, and procedures go, we divided the slides up into strengths and areas of growth. So our first area of our strength was that we have existing policies and procedures in place. So we have a base to
Nico
start with.
fan club basically. Is
We're
what-
not starting
what
from
this,
scratch.
This program
We also
is
have refinement of
inclusive
special
and
education
welcoming of
organizational
everybody.
structure and programming going on. We have accountability. We've developed the quadrant structure for accountability and urgency. There is an opportunity to develop inclusionary versus exclusionary processes in programs that we heard earlier from Dr. Menares about the importance of inclusion versus exclusionary practices. So that was a strength that we have to build on. Some areas for growth in this area include standardizing our documentation and procedures. So even though we have policies and procedures in place, we don't necessarily have standardized documentation and procedures district-wide. The other area is transparency and communication, and that means transparency with our staff and communication with our staff. So, making sure that everyone in the district is aware of what we have for policies, systems, and procedures and knows where to find those documents. The other thing is providing staff with special education guidance and support. We've been able to do that through our work with our quadrant teams as well. Next slide, please. So the next slide is related to programming, instruction, and staffing. Our areas of strength are commitment to improvement, The district is committed to improving our special education department. The quadrant structure to support our programs and instruction. There's an awareness of needed professional development. And then the collaborative initiatives with our partnering, I'll just give an example of our partnering initiatives, how we partner with our universities. We have a lot of universities in Worcester, and special education partners with Assumption University. We partner with Holy Cross. We have a new partnership starting with Quinsigamond and Community College. Some areas that we have for growth are access to high quality instruction, making sure that all of our students across the district in every one of our programs and in inclusion have access to that quality instruction. That we develop clear guidelines for our programs and placements. So this means that when students enter and exit programs, that we have a very clear identified process of how those students enter and exit our programs, and that we are monitoring how students particularly exit our programs, and that we're hoping that they go back into that inclusionary model if it's appropriate. And then we have developed appropriate training for our staff. The audit clearly showed that we need a lot of training throughout the district with our special education staff. And then consistent caseload criteria. They found that we have inconsistencies across the district with caseloads in most areas. Next slide. As far as resources and professional development, some strengths are our district support from our administration, from our parents, from our guardians, and from our community. We have expert staff expertise throughout the district. That's a strength. We have existing resources. We're a large district, and we're lucky that we're able to pull from lots of different resources. We also are eligible for federal grants. We have an IEP grant right now that we received that I presented back in December or January that's going to help us roll out the new IEP. We also, my team and I have applied for a timeout grant, which would allow us to provide training that we really need throughout the district for our autism classrooms, and also for our social emotional classrooms as well. So we're really hoping that we get that grant, but that's some of the work that we're doing. The areas of growth is to make sure that we have appropriate professional development using research-based practices. So we have professional development that happens, but we really need to make sure that it's appropriate for all of our staff members. Equitable access to materials, meaning that we have, every quadrant throughout the district has equal access to materials. We did find some inconsistencies. The audit found some inconsistencies throughout the district. The next area is improvement to improve our IEP implementation across the district. We're very excited about the new IEP. Is the perfect time to start some of these improvements.
Damn,
which
Ziggy
we've
Bombs
already
opened
been
up
able
a
to do
Brookline
as part of
location.
The IEP federal grant.
They
that we
sold us
received.
out.
Next
Can't
slide.
believe that.
As far as communication and family involvement, our strengths are that we
They're
do
going
have
full Boston
community,
about it.
family, and cultural engagement across the district. We've had record numbers of CPAC engagement, which is really exciting, which tells me as a director that parents really want, they want to have the engagement with our schools. And we know when we have families that are involved with our schools, we have better results. Another area of strength is our technology infrastructure. The audit found that we have a really good technology infrastructure in place. Some areas for growth include our documentation and our transparency. Again, making sure that not only our staff know about our documentation, but that our families know about, what documentation we have in place, where to find it, and that we're transparent about that information. As far as improving, another area is improving communication with our families. We do communicate with our families, but the audit found that we could use a more consistent approach that is accessible to our families. So we are working on that. The other thing is meaningful family engagement. We found through some of our trainings already that, you know, the IEP training was one that we had over 60 families, you know, participate in because they found it meaningful. And another area was our transition fair. We had a packed multi-purpose room up at Worcester Tech for our transition fair, which tells me as a director that our families are really looking for resources for transitions. And then the last area is to utilize our parent and guardian feedback to advise our programs. So if we have a really good CPAC and family involvement, then the families will be advising us on programming and what we need within the district. Next slide. Okay, so this brings us to building the foundation for the future. All means all. So as we move to the next slide here, so what does our vision look like? Our vision looks like that we're looking to build inclusive systems, which include procedures, processes, and practices. If you look at this tree in the picture, it shows us that we have a really strong
Has everybody seen
foundation,
the
which we
here, I'm
can
sending a
build
link in the
upon.
chat. The
And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that through
Hurricane Betty's
accountability.
beer that this
We've
brewery
built
odd,
the
odd
quadrant
by
models,
Worcester is
which
doing?
as a special ed department has
pretty
helped
sick.
us provide
It's
more
called Sweaty
accountability
Betty's.
to make sure that our students are future ready and that we're using innovative techniques as we
And it's a
assess our
disconcerting color,
programs throughout the district.
which I think makes it even
Next
better.
slide. So this brings us to special education beyond ESSER. So many of you know that we received $18 million in ESSER funds over the past several years. But as we move beyond ESSER, the point of ESSER was for learning loss, intervention, acceleration, and support. So as we move beyond ESSER, there are 5
Oh, Brendan, you're
categories
muted, man.
here that we're going to focus in on. So the first one is making sure that we're well.
I don't think I was talking.
Structured programming.
Oh,
Our second
I
one
looked
is
like
that
you
we
were.
focus
Oh.
on quality.
Oh, no, I was just chewing on my
quality education
nicotine
and
toothpick.
services.
You
Oh,
found
nice.
nicotine
Third is
toothpicks yet, Bill?
accountability. We
No, I
really
should
need
get
to be
some.
responsible and transparent.
They-
for our
it's
students,
Zippix.com,
followed by
man.
inclusive,
Zippix,
least
all right.
They are
restrictive
not a sponsor of
learning
this program,
environment.
but
As a district, we're
where it's
moving
at.
towards
Not yet.
making sure that we're
Not a
providing
sponsor of this
students
program
with
yet.
as much inclusive opportunities as possible.
Everyone hit up
and that we're making sure that our
zippix.com
students are
and be like,
future
you should
ready
sponsor the Worcester
for
Council
what-
Theater 3000
whatever
program.
they should do after school.
They also do
when they get out
B12
of
and
school
caffeine
at
infused
grade 12
toothpicks.
or at age
Wow.
22, whatever career
right.
pathway that they
You can basically
they
live off
decide
sucking on
that
toothpicks.
is best for them.
Yeah,
Next slide.
I'm into it.
Okay, so this brings us to a vision of our learner. I know a lot of you who have been involved with these meetings have heard about vision of a learner. I want to highlight this slide and talk just very briefly about that. This really is all means all. So this means that our students with special needs also fall into vision of a learner. So it's not just our general education students, but it's our special education students as well. And we want to make sure that we really focus in as a special education team on problem solving, on making sure our students are curious learners, making sure they're empowered individuals, that they're effective communicators, and that they're engaged community members so that the end goal is that they graduate and have career pathways that are appropriate for them. Next slide. And our tiered approach to improvement involves a lot of the things I mentioned already, but putting system alignment in place, making sure we're developing and training our staff, and then making sure that we are setting goals and benchmarks so that we're making continuous improvement. Okay, so this brings us to a video that we're going to show you about our students. So this is, hopefully it will play,
This
our
is going to be
learners
awesome.
and all means all.
I already like this more than the buzz.
They actually drink the coffee.
Oh, that's just nice. Yeah, it was kind of bugging me the whole time that they never hit the full screen icon.
Okay, so we're next going to call up some voices from the field. I'm first going to bring up a parent that we have. Jen Colifloys is going to speak for a few minutes from the parent's voice.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Coliflores. I'm part of the Worcester Public Schools CPAC, our Special Education Parent Advisory Council. I entered the world of special education as a foster mother during the global pandemic when we were all
Isn't
remote
CPAC
learning.
something
It
else?
seems
It's
very
like the
long ago, but
Conservative Political
also
Action
only
Committee.
a few years ago. I'm
They're like- that's
currently
like
now
pays
an
for, like, Ben
adoptive
Shapiro
mother and raising 4 children here in the city of
And
Worcester with
Candace
my
Owens and
husband.
all that.
Our CPAC here in the district consists of
Yeah,
parents,
Conservative Political Action
caregivers, and
Conference.
students, caregivers of students with special needs.
It's an annual political
with IEPs, 504
conference
plans,
attended by conservative
all
activists
of
and
the
elected
services that
officials
we
from
saw
across the United
outlined in
States.
that presentation. What brings us together is our desire to have the best access for education for our special needs students and our families. Our students in the districts each have a unique set of needs, whether it be physical, emotional, educational, and we're coming from a diverse and rich background that make up our city. Why is CPAC important? It allows the families and caregivers of our students to connect, to share resources, to feel empowered, to take active parts in our students' education. And it's not easy as parents and caregivers of special needs students. It can be challenging, it can be intimidating, and we're not only thinking of what's best for our students now, but what's best a year from
It's
now.
it's
5
a
years
Comic-Con
from
where
now,
everyone
or
is playing
transition
one
into
character.
adulthood.
Everyone is dressing up like the
CPAC
same exact
hopes
character.
that
It's just
more
it's a
involvement
Ronald Reagan
and collaboration
Comic-Con.
between the parents and caregivers with their students' schools. We hope that it will result in better outcomes, not only in the school setting, but in the home setting. I urge the city to continue to support our special needs students in our district. And for those that are interested in learning more about it and to join our CPAC, to contact the Special Education Office and to find us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I'm now going to call up our teacher, Laura Barish. She's on Zoom.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Barish. I am a special education teacher at Woodland Academy in the South Quadrant. I'm here tonight not just as an educator, but as an advocate for a cause that lies at the heart of our profession, inclusion. Worcester Public Schools offers many different educational models within special education that are dependent on student needs. As you saw tonight, the majority of our students with disabilities across the district are taught within what we call a full inclusion setting, which means they spend 80% or more of their
It's
day
crazy
within a
that this is
general
the same city
education
as the Worcester
classroom.
School Committee.
As special
I was just
education
thinking of the right
teachers,
way to
our roles
articulate that.
are
Like
to ensure that
watching this
students have
meeting actually
access
makes
to
me feel really good
high-quality
about Worcester,
core
even with the shitty snow outside.
instruction that happens
Yeah,
throughout the
yeah. Like
entirety of their day.
I have no
Not
notes
just the
on this. This
20%
is just
or
all
less,
good
we are
stuff.
working with them directly. But inclusion is not just about what happens inside of the classroom. It's
The
about
50 or so
preparing our
people who
students
watch
for the
every week on
world beyond
Facebook,
the
those are
classroom
the really
walls.
nice people
I'm
who like
excited to
tip
have the
well and
opportunity
don't swear at
tonight to
strangers in
provide some
traffic.
insight into the role of
Right, right.
inclusion within our classrooms. At Woodland Academy, my team and I have made efforts to fully immerse ourselves in co-taught models of teaching. The rewards of co-teaching far outweigh the difficulties.
Completely unrelated, but
By
we
5th
had
and
any
6th
sandwiches of
grade, my
history
students have service delivery grids
fans
that
in the
include
house?
almost exclusively
Anybody
services
into that?
inside the
It's
classroom.
my favorite Instagram.
Last year, an inclusion specialist we work with told us to choose a prom date, a teacher I would experiment going all in on co-teaching with. So let's divert our eyes from the walls of this room, or in my case, the computer, and use our imagination to take a peek through the hallway window into room 306, a sixth grade math and science classroom with 7 special education students, 12 general education students, and 2 teachers, a general education teacher, and for 45 minutes, 4 times a week, a special education teacher, me. Math instruction can be team taught, teaching the whole class at the same time and having specific students to check in with, or it might be strategic student groups based on an exit ticket from the day before, with one teacher working with students who would benefit from enrichment and another teacher working with students that can benefit from reteaching and extra practice. With my own knowledge, we've been able to incorporate retrieval practice to support retention and student engagement with content. My co-teacher, Mrs. Durant, brings years of content knowledge. All students benefit from our strengths. Special education students know their accommodations and they are implemented seamlessly. Because specially designed modified instruction is done in conjunction with the general education teacher, she too has become skilled at implementing specially designed instruction when I'm not even in the room. We both contribute to my progress monitoring data toward IEP goals, and her deep knowledge of their progress towards these goals helps both of our instruction. She even aligns homework to support students' IEP goals. In an effective co-teaching model, there is no division between students. All the students are both of our students. In fact, at one point during my prom year last year, I asked my students to line up so I could pull them out for STAR testing, and the class was so confused because they weren't sure who truly were supposed to be my students. So now let's take a step inside the propped open door of 308, a 3rd grade classroom that has upped the ante to have the entire special education population receive all services in the classroom. This was an exciting opportunity given that I would be co-teaching with a general education teacher who was also highly passionate about the science of reading. She and I did beginning of the year assessments with the whole class to create intervention groups that are fluid based on student performance and biweekly data collection. We both work with all students in the classroom. In fact, one of my first groups of the year was actually full of the highest readers in the class. Because of our collaboration, every student receives instruction in small groups every day.
Made a
For
compound
students that are
butter
receiving intervention through the
and
student
basted
support
the entire
process,
chicken
are receiving
before
tiered
roasting
intervention
it.
from me and benefiting from my deep content knowledge
Compound
on
butter,
methodologies I've
butter,
been lucky enough to
thyme,
be trained on through the special
minced
education
garlic,
department.
and
In a
lemon
typical
zest.
model,
And
without another
oof,
teacher in the
it
room,
is
students
good.
may only meet,
So,
Do you have
teachers
some
may
sturdy
only
oven
meet
mitts
with
so you
some
can bring the
students 2
bird
to 3
over to
times a
us
week.
and we can
My
take a
students
look?
can meet their IEP
Yeah.
goals and
Well,
know more grade level content than ever before.
that'd
because we
be
have the capacity
so much more
to provide
wholesome
a
of
learning
a
environment that allows them to
stream for these long
flourish.
city council meetings.
When
is
we
like,
received the
I just
MCAS
like
data from my
we gotta
prom
find a
class
commercial
last year,
kitchen and we just cook
15 out
something
of the
extremely
19
elaborate.
students were
One of us-
categorized
yeah.
as in the
So-
high growth range, with
Oh,
the
that'd be
highest
fantastic.
growth occurring
A
within students
souffle
with
or like
disabilities. 8 students
like
had,
a
after
bechamel
years
sauce.
of low
Something with,
performance,
like
risen from the not meeting expectation range to higher ranges
what takes the
of
longest
scores.
time?
In the midst of
Like
MCAS, I look forward to
like a
seeing the
proper
performance
Sunday
of my
gravy
3rd grade students,
in
not
the
only
Sopranos
this year, but
tradition.
in years to come. I want to convey that special education does not mean you are banished to a school, program, or
Wellington.
even a room. Inclusion practices are increasing throughout the district. It is about
Every
more than
week
just
we get
placing
together, we watch
students
city
with
council, and we
disabilities
make
in the
one
same
beef
classrooms as their
Wellington.
peers. It's about creating a culture of acceptance, understanding, and support that benefits all students, both those with disabilities and those without. In an inclusive classroom, every student has a role to play and every student has something valuable to contribute. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on such an important topic tonight.
Thank you, Laura. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to bring up our last voice from the field, Sam LaJoie, a student.
Good evening. My story starts in kindergarten where I didn't know how to read and had to stay back. I then went to Hershey Elementary School where I would get tutored once a week either in a closet or under a stairwell because the school was old and did not have the facilities for people who need a little extra help. I then went to an LD program at Norback Elementary where I met Mrs. Whitney. She would work with me every day for a period and help me eventually get up to grade level reading in 2 years. From there, I went to Forest Grove as a student in the LD classroom. I continued to receive support for reading and writing, but was included in all my other classes with support from my LD teacher. At this point, I was able to complete almost all my work independently with success. I am now attending South High Community School where I am reading at grade level. I am studying to be a diesel technician and working as a mechanic for Milton Caterpillar. I am also studying environmental science to someday possibly become a game warden. I am also the captain of the varsity
I don't
baseball
think there were
team. By the way, we
presentations
play
like
at Fuller
this.
Park on Monday at 2:30. It's going to be a great game.
Not this
Without all
comprehensive,
the help
like with
I received
different
throughout my
team members and
schooling, I
like a
honestly
schedule
don't
of
know where I would
speakers
be
and stuff.
today. I stand in front of you all today with many opportunities and different career paths. I have many teachers like Mrs. Whitney and Mrs. Mushan to thank because without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. I just want to say a thank you to the Norback team, the Forest Grove team, and the South High team. It's hard to believe I am already a junior and I continue to strive to reach my goals after I graduate next year. I appreciate everybody who has helped me along the way, and I hope everybody gets the opportunities I have gotten. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Aw.
That concludes our presentation. And we're open for,
Wow, that's the most wholesome thing I've ever seen in my whole life.
Well,
Yeah.
first of all, I want to thank all of
And
the
I
different
really can't think
presenters. So nice to hear
that this stuff was
from
happening
our
under
scholar.
Maureen
I'd
or
love
any
to be
really
able to
any
get
past
them and what the
administration really.
calendar allows, but I'm
Yeah,
gonna
no,
try.
this is new territory for
And
sure.
Thank you, Laura, for being, for sharing what it looks like to do and to be to do the co-teaching model in such a effective, streamlined manner. Again, thank you to Worcester Alternative for being here. I do want to just acknowledge our Executive Director of the Central Massachusetts Collaborative, Sue Farrell, who is also here this evening. There is an item where we have as an action item to file the annual report. And so if there's any questions there, but the collaborative, as it's fondly known as, is another partner to help us with the special ed services that we offer in our district. So you heard tonight a lot of information. Again, what the audit did for us is it reminded us that we have some systems in place and we need to streamline those systems, operationalize them, really get a really strong manual in place so that what we heard the teacher at Woodland share what her experience is for her 3rd and 4th grade students is happening throughout the district. We've got pockets of that in our district, and we have very extremely hardworking teachers and paraprofessionals and our itinerant staff. Everyone works extremely hard. We want to be the district that supports all of those individuals and really creates those structures and environments where all our youth can flourish. I do want to point out the slide that talked about the ratio, the student to staff ratio. So you heard a ratio of 1 staff member for 4.28 students. That's fabulous. ESSER allowed us to do that. ESSER is now sunsetting, and so that's going to be some changes that we'll have to make. That doesn't mean we won't offer the same services, because we will. We continue to learn from what we've offered with the ESSER funds. We did exactly what we were supposed to do with them, use them for interventions.
The
use
police
them to make sure
department
children don't
got
fall too far
audited,
behind, and see what
sort of
happens,
against
and
its
really build
will.
the capacity
Uh,
of the educators to
they didn't
provide
sign
those
up for those
services.
audits, and they
And so
didn't
as we lose ESSER, we
really
do not lose
participate in
services, and we
either of
don't lose
them.
the knowledge that our staff
The school's
through
auditing
this
their own
pandemic and coming
departments
out of it.
in a
So
voluntary fashion
want to
to
point that
actually
out
make
to you
sure they're
because
doing
that
the best
is
they
an important
can
number that
is
the committee needs to be aware
novel,
of as
I'd
we
say.
move into our budget season. With that, I turn it back to you, Mayor Petty,
you.
for any questions.
And just want to thank you all for
The racial equity audit is
great
so crazy
presentation.
because it's like
it
it was one of the
you
core
testified
tenets
and
of
spoke. It was very good.
Augustus
Thank
being
you.
like, listen, we hear
We
you
have-
guys.
Write the names down.
We're
We
doing
got,
police
Wayne
reform.
Johnson first, Juan McCullough.
And the audit takes 4 years, and then
Just
absolutely
a
nothing comes of it besides
number.
removing civil service for the chief and the deputy
Vanessa?
chief.
Anybody else? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay. Member Johnson? So we get Jermaine Johnson, Molly McCullough, Maureen Benenda.
It's somewhat genius though, knowing that the short
Thank
time
you,
sp-
to
ti-
the chair. Thank
attention
you all
span
for
that
the
people have.
presentation.
That you know you're going to
Really,
lose the majority of
enjoyed it.
people's interest
Um,
by the time something like that comes out,
I
and it can
remember
just get
when
filed.
Superintendent Monterez came in, and I'm pretty.
Yeah,
sure it
and
was the
Augustus
first
had to
meeting
have
that
known.
Mhm.
We
He
had
wouldn't-
together.
He wouldn't be around for
um,
when the thing came out.
And she talked about some of my 3 priorities, and I talked about special ed as being an important priority.
No,
of
and in fact, the
mine,
police
being on the
union
school
is like
committee and
actively fighting
having her
even
take a
the
look at it,
tepid policy
and having
proposals the
conversation
city's
on
proposed coming
being
out
more
of that
inclusive with our
equity
students.
report. So,
Talked about some of the
Yeah,
barriers
cops
that I
suck,
ran
but we all know
into
this.
over my 20+ years of being a social worker, working with children and families here in Worcester, and sitting at tables for IEP meetings and working with families in the Worcester Public Schools in regards to providing services for our kids, and at time being very frustrated at the time I wasn't a parent, but sitting at the table with other parents with their kids, seeing them navigate through the system was kind of frustrating to me. So I had shared that information as well. And it's good to hear the work that is now being done, the structure that superintendent has put in place over special ed, and how you guys are trying to make some progress and some changes on how we do things. So that is good to hear. I have a few things here, just in regards to the LD program, lab program there. What type of, who is serviced at Norbac? And like, how many students are currently there?
Through the chair. So I can answer that question. So we have an LD learning lab program at Norbac Elementary School, and we also have a program at Forest Grove, and we're building a program at Doherty. So we have a total, I just happen to know these numbers because we've been assessing this program closely. So we have 27 students total for the LD lab program across the district. And we have seven or eight students in the elementary level. And I believe that there are 10 at the middle school. And then we have, so those are students, I'm sorry, those are students who are in the sub-separate LD lab program. And then we have students that are part of that program who are partially included into the general education curriculum.
And there's more students in that. But
Right.
you don't
So
have
the
that.
27 is the total amount of students, but some of those students are 17 of them are in sub-separate and the rest are in partial inclusion.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair.
And I'm sorry, I didn't finish answering your question. The students that are in those classrooms have significant learning disability. So those are our most restrictive. That is a restrictive setting where if you're in a sub-separate classroom, there are minimal opportunities for inclusion. We always try to make sure that our students have some inclusion opportunities and that we're reassessing on a continuous basis whether they're ready to be included with their typical peers. And we also partner with Landmark, which is a pretty well-known LD school, and we have them come in and consult with us on a regular basis.
Thank you. So with that, so few people have reached out to me, and I just want to talk about specifically right now dyslexia. And I know there's a pre-screening process when they come in early on in pre-K, pre-screening. What is done after that to kind of pick up on whether or not someone may be dyslexic or not? I'm just wondering what the process is around that, besides the pre-screening. Through the chair.
Okay, through the chair. That's a great question. So as far as we have a Massachusetts dyslexia law that went into place in 2018, started with screening all of our kindergarten students, but now is kindergarten through third grade. So all of our students are screened on an annual basis. And if they don't do well on the screening, if they score in a high risk category, then they are put into intervention groups. And then you might have heard the term response to intervention. So smaller group intervention will be done with those students, and then they're monitored. And year after year, if students are still having difficulty, depending on the level of their difficulty, they could be referred to a student support process team, which then would lead to a group of people getting around the table, deciding whether, does a student need more intervention or not. And that ultimately could lead to an IEP, being brief, but, and then the other thing that I just wanted to mention is that we have a group we were awarded 5 of our staff members to go to a dyslexia institute. And so we know that there's a need for this within the district to really track our students. We do what's called DIBELS testing 3 times a year. So all of those kindergarten, first and second and third graders will also be tested 3 times a year to and determine whether they're at risk for dyslexia. So we're really looking at our students at risk for dyslexia early on, and then we monitor that progress closely through our DIBELS testing. And then if students aren't making progress, then they would be referred to that student support team, which would take a closer look at the student and determine whether if they needed more intensive services, potentially through an IEP.
Thank you for that. So, the reason why I bring that up is, because the concern that I was having was that the talk that I was having was that they were looking to leave the district feeling that their child.
We all miss
wasn't able
Brian.
to receive the services needed. due to
Brian is
that
too cool for
disability.
us on
So I
Thursdays.
kind of wanted to get a better picture of
So
that and
that's
kinda
something I have to
see
take up
if
with
there's
him.
something that we could do differently or take a look at. So that is a concern that I currently have.
Can I, through the chair, can I just say one more thing? So I just want to let you know that we are well aware that we need to put a better system in process. And as part of that Dyslexia Institute, our group has actually they're putting together an action plan so that we can monitor particularly the types of students that have dyslexia and that are at high risk, so that and the quadrant model is going to help us with this, because we will know who all of our students are in each one of the quadrants. Our quadrant special education supervisors will then be able to really, assess and monitor those students as part of our Q teams.
Thank you. So, I'm glad we're using the phrase now, all means all, because, I think we do a very good job of talking about all the great programs that we have, the Chapter 74 programs, the ETVs, the Guided Scholars, the Hanover Academies, all those programs that our students have, and, the high achieving students in our AP classes and all. I just want to ensure that we are focusing on our most vulnerable students who are part of this district as well. So now I'm going to go into being inclusive. So one of the questions I have is, again, working with students in Worcester Public Schools, being a social worker, there's been many students who have been placed on an IEP at a very young age, 4th, 5th grade, and graduate on an IEP and end up in a substantial separate placement outside of the school and never really had the opportunity to come back into the mainstream class. And to kind of hear the presentation today on having more full inclusion classrooms and keeping, that is great to hear, but my history tells me that that isn't always the case. So I'm just kind of wondering, through the chair to administration, do we know the number of students that on a yearly basis that are out substantially out of the mainstream classroom that come back in on a yearly basis? Do we track that data at all?
So
Through
through
the
the,
chair.
through the chair. So currently, we do track that data. I'll be quite honest with you, we need to track that data better. We need to develop processes and systems that we can track. That we do have systems in place. We need better systems to track that data. And that is definitely something that's needed. I mean, at each IEP meeting, they're discussing placement, but we do need to do a better job with monitoring our
Brian,
other
did you see that,
district students.
Jim
And that is
McGovern called
something
for
that
a
I'm working on
freeze
with
of
my team
military
to develop
aid
a
to
better
Israel?
process and procedure. Next year,
That
we'll have better
seems
data for you.
Thank you.
very significant.
Jermaine, Member
Um,
Johnson, if I could further elaborate.
Unless you
So
voted
much of what
to
happens
send
when
the
students end up starting in a
weapons
least
already,
restrictive
which
and
might
then
be the
becoming
case,
more
but
into
apparently he
least
just said it on
restrictive,
Talk of the
which is-
Commonwealth. So
That should
Interesting.
only happen for a small
I'll have
percentage
to
of children, right? So if it's happening
suss
over
that
and
one
over
out.
again, then what we have to do is we have to look at what happens in that general education setting and how are those appropriate accommodations being met in collaboration between the general education teacher and the special education teacher. Very much.
Yeah,
what
I'm
we
reading it
just
off of
heard, Lori speak about at Woodland,
This
right?
Week in
And she
Worcester right
talked
here,
about
but
how
I'll have to
because that tight co-teaching
listen
model
to
is in
Talk of the
place,
Commonwealth,
and the leadership has given them the time to
where all of
plan
the
so
news
that
gets
it
made
doesn't
in the
just
city.
happen,
Anyone who
that
has something
the
to
general
say says
education
it on
teacher
Talk of the
is
Commonwealth.
practicing and
AM radio is the
using
future.
the knowledge that the special education teacher has in the general education setting, even when she's not there, right? That's the skill set that we need to further develop as a district in Worcester. And we next year will be really starting to focus.
Speaking of
in
military
first,
aid, I
we're
just
gonna go
watched
about it in
Generation
tiers, if
Kill
you
for the
will, 'cause
first
we've got
time. It's such a
developing
good show.
skill and
Incredible.
knowledge around the accommodations and
I
modifications.
don't know how
for
I've gone
children
this
with
long without
special
watching
needs.
it, but
We need to
that
do the
wow,
same thing
that
for
really
children
nails a
who
lot of
language is not, or English
lot
is
of
not their
stuff
first
about,
language. And then how
what it
do you
means to
put
be an
that into
occupying
a
army. You know,
lesson where everybody can access it, right? We're going to start with our focus instructional coaches and our Q teams. Make sure that they're very solid and strong in doing that, because we have experts in special education, but she's not going to be in that classroom each and every day, right? So we've got to work with those who are going to be at the school, making sure that they can do all of that, and then they can support the classroom teachers to do that. So very much moving away from the silo approach that has happened in education for much too long, and really starting to spread the knowledge across, always having our experts.
The
because it's their
character that
passion, it's their
Skarsgård
love,
plays,
and they went to school for that. We're
actually a
starting to
really
spread the
interesting
knowledge so that we
guy
don't
that he's
have
based on.
the children
He's
doing
out of
exactly
he
what
was
they
originally
did,
from Connecticut, if I'm not
in
mistaken.
addition to tracking.
Oh,
So
really?
that's our
Yeah.
approach, is really
But like not the
to
kind of
break down
person
those
that you
silos
necessarily
and
expect
make
to
sure
be
that
an enlisted
any
Marine.
adult who is
If
working
that
with
makes
children,
sense. Like,
Yeah.
regardless of what label we've given them,
I got to read the
that
book
they
now
can provide the
'cause
teaching and learning
I
opportunities for
really
the
enjoyed
child
the show.
themselves.
Generation
Um,
Kill. It was about the
couple more.
first Marine
comments here.
recon units that went into Iraq after Baghdad proper at
When
the
we
start of the war.
kept talking about professional development.
But it's good in
training
a lot for a lot
our
of weird
staff.
reasons. It captures
Just
some
wanna
stuff
say
that
we,
I think
we
gets
need to
got
ensure
kind of lost
that
in
we're
time. That how
intentional
woefully unprepared
on
right,
professional
wrong, or
development and
indifferent on
training
like
that
invading
we
a
get,
country,
and to
like not at all
ensure that it's
prepared
geared
to like be
towards the
invading a
job
country.
that
They were
they're
like
actually doing and
in
how they're
unarmored
doing the work.
vehicles
So it's
heading
just not
into
this
a war zone. It was
cookie cutter thing where
very
you just
really
release
good
training,
portrayal
which may
of the
not
book,
fit
which was equally
the
good.
skill set or
Yeah.
the service that you're providing to our
General
students. So
Mattis is an
ensuring
off-screen
that-
character
that-
the entire time, just
that
like
occurs.
imploring the Marines to be as psychotic
Which I
and
think would
dangerous as
go back
possible.
to one of my concerns is regarding. our
I feel like
service that
Generation
we
Kill
provide
and
those
Charlie
professional
Wilson's War
services
are the two
to
books
our
that
kids,
do like
how
probably
that
the
is
best
being
job
done
of
in the
capturing
classroom and how that all looks.
U.S. policy in the Mideast
So through the chair, I on
from a
this,
journalist
I
perspective,
would
and just
like
how
to make,
insane it all,
two motions here.
all was.
First motion is to
Yeah, I got to read the book. I might order
continue
it
to
right
look
now.
at our existing policies and procedure and to ensure that they align with state guidelines, DESE, and I would like a report.
It's
back
like
on this
unbelievable to
in
me. I
regards
don't
to
think
if
that would
there's any
happen today
updates or
that like a
changes
Rolling
in
Stone
regards to
reporter
our
could be
policies and
embedded with
procedures
the
that
front
you guys
line
feel that we need to
like,
make, that we get a report back. on
invading
that.
force. Like, that's crazy.
And the second motion I would like to make is also you talked about updated guidelines for our programs and placements. Can we just get a update on whatever those guidelines are for our programs and placements on how kids are placed there and what type of programs we have? And what I would ask probably would be that I guess we could get it. I guess we could get it in a report of a superintendent, like this isn't a rush thing, like next year when you report out on special ed or whatever, just to give you some time to gather some information or whatever. And along with that, just a report on when we come back next year, how many students who are in a substantial separate classroom who have been able to transition back into the main, so we have an idea on how that looks. And just one last thing, this will not be a motion or whatever. Are we taking a look at our students who are out of district and somewhere else out of district or whatever? And what can we do to kind of get those students back into our district to provide them the service? You know, it's also a funding source as well for us. So taking a look at that moving forward.
Through the chair, can I just make one comment to that? So we do have a weekly meeting where we go through all of our out of district students and look to see, you know, what students we can bring back. Do we need to go visit students? So we do that on a weekly basis.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Oh, where'd Joe go? You going over to get some Ziggy Bombs before they close?
It's like, I don't know, doing musical chairs right now. Thank you. Through the chair. So thank you, first of all, for the excellent
Welcome.
presentation. And for those of you who are still here who participated.
Hi,
I really
Need Fire.
appreciate
Thank
taking
you
the
for
time, especially
subscribing.
Those of you who didn't have to show up to
Um,
work today and then showed up tonight.
I
So
think I neglected
that's
to
really great
mention
because
that
it's wonderful
today's
to hear about all the
today's
things
chat
going on
is
in the
subscriber
schools.
only.
I took a lot of notes during the presentation, so
And
pardon me if
that's
they're a little
thank
bit
you
all over
everyone
the map.
who is
Some of them are a
subscribing
little bit
and
more
helping support this
commentary, and some
program.
of them may be questions and
And
some
our
of them
unnecessarily
the answer
high
isn't a lot.
StreamYard
So,
bill
and I'll try not
that
to
we
be
are trying
duplicative of
to
anything Member
chip
Johnson
away
said
at.
as well.
So
So again, thank you.
really
It's just
appreciate your
really
support.
wonderful to hear a lot of the collaboration that's going on when it's coming to our special education students and the needs that we know that we have throughout the district. So the first thing I'll ask is, with the work being done, do we believe there is room to get students in more of the least restrictive environments? And I know you did list that as one of the areas for growth. So that, I guess, I'm happy to hear that that was one of the areas for growth. And I know Member Johnson included that as well, but that was one of my initial questions. So happy to hear that that's being worked on. When it comes to the ACT program, are students in and out through the chair? Are students in and out of that type of program? And what are the objectives for those students after grade 5? Because that only goes through K-5, correct? Through the chair?
Right, through the chair. So our students sometimes will then go to Central Mass Collaborative. You know, they will go over to our middle school program that we have there, depending on their needs. There's a couple of middle school programs at Central Mass Collaborative. And then sometimes they come back to Worcester Public Schools. So it
Need
really
Fire, were you
depends on
here?
that
Were you able to catch
individual need
the
of
full
student.
report from this
Thank you.
group?
That answered that question. I appreciate that. So
If
again, the
not, it's
importance
probably
of the
worth
least
tracking
restrictive
down
environment while
the
still supporting
presentation
the
that they
needs of
just
our
delivered. It
students.
really,
And really knowing
was
that
really
we're
good stuff.
focusing on that is so important. So with the ongoing review through the chair.
Awesome.
Yeah,
the
I found
needs
the
of special ed
co-teaching
students throughout the district,
all
how
of
have we been able to utilize the
that
quadrant
teacher's
model and the
presentation to be
team,
really
and how has
insightful
that
and
continued to
something that I
benefit the work at the
don't know
school
much
level?
about.
I've heard a lot of positive feedback out there from educators, but I'm interested to hear from, you know, the special ed team and administration feedback that you have about how the Q team model has been beneficial. And I know you did touch on some of that. So again, some of my questions I was writing as we went, so I apologize if some was touched on throughout the time through the chair. Is that a comment or a question?
Dr. Murray.
So I'll start, but then I'm going to pass it along to some of our cute team members that we
Thank
have
you.
here. So I just want to comment that I really love the quadrant model, and it's one of the reasons why I came back to the district. Years ago, those of you that have been around for a long time will know that we had the quadrant model through Dr. Gavi and Dr. Caradonio many years ago. So it's like 1990, like I guess the end of the 1990s into 2000. And it worked well then. And so I'm glad to see it back. So some of the positives that I have seen is that there are engagements in places there hasn't been in a while in Worcester Public Schools. So that means like focused instructional coaches. We have Amanda here tonight, who is an expert in, curriculum and coaching. And we're able to also work with the social emotional needs of our students. And we also have this great team approach in each quadrant where we have a supervisor, department head, and coaches. And as a director, it's more like having a mini special education director in each one of those quadrants. Our district is so big that, some districts have, a lot less students, that could be. Anyway, I think you get the idea of what I'm saying. I'm going to let my colleagues speak a little bit to this question as well. Maybe Amanda, you could talk a little bit about the positive work that you see out in the North Quadrant.
I can't really speak to what Maureen
Through
Beninda is
the chair.
against, but she does seem to
I
be
have
just
had,
pro punishment.
An amazing experience with this model. I am new to the special ed department in Worcester, but not new to special ed. And I have to say that I work with the North Quadrant schools, and what we've really focused on this year through our work with Dr. Murray, but also with Dr. Tatum in the North, has really been about relationship building with the schools. And some of those schools who have not had all of that experience over the years with having someone come in, they've really seemed to appreciate and enjoy it, even just to give that wider lens and look at things together. But also beyond just special ed, the fact that we have the different departments within our quadrant team. I've been able to work closely with our integrated coach, with our multilingual, and with our ed tech team, and just in culture and climate has been phenomenal. And then also working through even with our Office of Research and trying to really build off of each other's strengths and come together weekly and be able to work on projects together and say, hey, I know you're working on this. Let's team up and work together on it. And we've really been able to bring a wider lens and come up with some, I think, very positive action steps for some schools. And that's been a great opportunity.
Can I just, through the chair, I would just like to comment too, on the quadrant model. I think, we're always talking about building capacity, like how can we really stretch ourselves? This is a big job, right? And these kids matter. There are students, there are, they are the kids that we show up every day for. And I think through this quadrant model, we have this unique opportunity where we get to not only go in and sort of see something through a specialized lens, but we can offer that coaching. We can stay, we can come back, we can converse, we can share ideas, then we can go back again. And through that, we're building that capacity. We're leaving those schools a little bit better.
Oh,
every
wait until
time
you
we
guys
come
see
in
this
and we
bird.
leave, and then we
It
come in and
is
we leave. So I
a
think that
lovely
this
bird.
is, to speak to some of the questions that were asked, like this is how we're going to be able to see, the change happen, but then be able to track and put systems in place to really monitor.
Thank you. And then, again, I apologize that I'm a little all over because there was so much good stuff going on and things that I had some questions or points on. Going back to the areas for growth with IEP implementation, it would seem that with the new IEP.
Yeah, Sutton is a
model,
generally a crazy
it would
town.
be a great
to be fair.
opportunity to get people on the same page. and
They've been
train some
isolated for far
areas. So
too
I was
long.
happy to hear about the grant that was applied for. And I know that there had been the previous presentation on the new IEP implementation. Again, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that work. But I would assume that that would be the intent, that people now would all be able to be on the same page. So that work with the IEPs will be consistent. And that leads into the CPAC work. I know the parent who spoke left, but I was so happy that she was here to speak because I have seen so much more coming from that group over the last several months. So I'd like to thank you, and I'm looking forward to seeing more involvement from the parents and families and caregivers. And that kind of ties back into, I think, a little bit of what Ms. Barish talked about. And I'm so happy that she was able to be on tonight because I think that's such an excellent example of how we get away from some of the more restrictive models for our students and the importance of not feeling excluded. Because having had two children that have been IEPs, one who is no longer and was able to no longer be, what a struggle that was over the years and still is a struggle to not want to be pulled out, to not want to be ostracized from your peers and not feel like that you're less than, even though it's simply something simple that could have been done in a queuing way in class or things of that nature with just some additional supports in the room. So just excellent to hear that co-teaching model and how not only it benefits the students, but then the teachers get to learn from one another and build on that. So just excited to hear that. And I was happy that she brought up the science of reading because she was actually very helpful last year when we were examining the different curricula and sharing feedback as a special education teacher who didn't necessarily pilot herself, but was part of a classroom where it was being piloted and how she felt it would benefit special ed students as well. So that was really invaluable knowledge to get at that time. Really happy that we are looking at our policies, practices, and procedures. And, Mr. Johnson has asked for follow-up on that. I'll be not excited, I guess, looking forward to hearing more about that. But it's exciting, growth and change. As we continue to adjust, it can be challenging work, but this is work that is so incredibly important. And, not only.
Gary
beyond
Rosen is
school
90%
obligations,
crank and
but certainly
10%
this is
rubber
crucial
sidewalk.
in meeting our mantra of all means all. And I know that kept coming up.
Gary
as I was,
Rosen is
what I had
90%
written down,
crank,
but
which
this
I
is
will
so
agree with, but he
incredibly
also
crucial to our students and really happy that
will
the QT
have
is
to be
providing more of
personally
those
credited
targeted
with
supports,
Worcester
and
opening up the
we're
first
looking at
safe
being more
ingestion
intentional and
site
targeted with our
in the
professional
state, if that
development, and
happens.
that we're listing those
Which
as areas
is,
for growth.
and
I'll try
also
to finish up here
needs
'cause I know
credit
everyone else wants
for
to talk too, so I
fare free
apologize. The last thing I would say is thank you to
buses.
Ms. Ortiz
So
for coming in and speaking tonight and the other
90%
educators.
Craig,
It is so
also
great
personally
to
involved
support,
with
I know
two
I
of
ran
the
into
more
you
progressive things that have ever
separately
happened in
outside of
Worcester.
school setting,
Mhm.
and all
Not that
you
safe
were so
injection
excited
sites
about,
have
I just
happened
want this
yet.
opportunity to go teach art
It's
at the
looking
Worcester
like they
Alternative
might,
School. I have so many
which would
ideas
be
of how
great.
it can benefit their students, and I can be a part of growth and progress and change. And to hear how we're using our arts as a therapeutic
Gary
benefit
Rosen's
and the
just one of those
importance of
classic
the
Worcester
technology
enigmas.
department and all of those things that are utilizing for those students. The ask I have through administration, so I guess this would be a motion or an ask, but it can be just an ask. There was a lot of information shared about the Worcester Alternative School and some of the changes this year and the 5 teams to the 3 teams, I believe. Would it be possible through administration to get maybe 1 or 2 slides or a few paragraphs condensing a little bit of what Ms. Ortiz shared tonight, just so we have that in a written format too, because it would be great to get that through the chair to the superintendent or administration.
Through the chair, just to clarify, Member McCullough, would you like it in a what's happening, or we can bring it back in a, but then we would need that motion. So either way.
What's happening is fine. And what's
Okay.
happening is fine. There was just a lot of great information shared. So just to get that in a little bit of a more visual format would be great, just to see a little bit and understand more. And I think,
We will bring that, not for tomorrow, we'll have it ready for next Friday.
yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
we'll work, we'll get your notes.
Yeah,
Ms.
no.
McKee.
So I think, I hope that will lead me to the end of all of my copious notes and comments, but really, again, so happy to hear this. I appreciate the work that's going on. I know it's a lot of work, and I appreciate the time and commitment that all of our staff and educators are giving to this because it's, again, just such important work. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Benenda?
Thank you. This is a subject that is very true to my heart also. I first want to recognize, as the student that was speaking said, that Worcester Public Schools has long had very successful special education programs. And also recognize past special administrators and
Pay
staff,
attention to me.
who helped make students like spoke today be successful too. I say there's a new team here. Everybody on this team is new, working in administration in the special education department, of course, except for Dr. Morse. So I have a lot of notes also here tonight. One of the things is a
She's
form of
something else,
motion.
man.
I thought you did a great job on the report. What I did not find is any data. So my motion is that we receive special education attendance grades, courses passed and failed by special education students, the work on DIBELS, progress monitoring results, the discipline of special education students, the number of certified special education staff, the number of paras in the special education program.
Look at
and
Kathy
the
Wright
number
taking
of
notes.
co-teaching programs and what site they're at. My concern regarding the co-teaching model, because I know that one high school was not allowed to continue their co-teaching model because it required 2 teachers in a classroom instead of 1 this year, is that with the looming cuts, not knowing where we're going with cuts that we do not cut in the special education area, because the co-teaching model definitely is the model to keep going. I think when K-Seal left, one of the things that we have been talking about is PD for co-teaching, because you just can't co-teach. As you heard from the Woodland model, it is a way of training both the regular education teacher and the special education teacher to work together. A training of a special education teacher is always in making accommodations, not necessarily in the curriculum, especially in the secondary level. And the training of the regular education teacher, especially the teacher in the secondary level, is in curriculum content. So it's really important, if they're working together, that the students see them as both teachers in the curriculum, not one as a special ed teacher, because in my experience, what happens is the kids look at the special education teacher as almost like an aide in the classroom, and not necessarily an equal teacher that knows the curriculum also. So I'd be really interested in information also about how the
What
co-teaching
information?
model is going to be expanded. All research shows that that is exactly the model that we should be using for students. It seems like it would be much easier. to
The
implement
thing
in
that
elementary
everyone
school.
on this program was
We
like,
don't have
oh,
so
that's
many
actually really
teachers,
neat.
right?
Marie
In high
Benenda comes
school,
out of the
students
gate
take
just
7 classes.
blasting
They get
it.
up to have 7 different teachers a day, or depending upon their schedule, at least 5. So the other
Miserable.
part is that I
Miserable
really
lady.
think special education teachers receive a lot of credit, and I'm not sure everyone here knows how difficult the job of a special education teacher is. So if you are a special education classroom teacher in the secondary, you teach your classes, you have an advocate list, you're responsible for meeting with the regular ed teacher to see how your students are doing in those classrooms.
Why is
You
she
help
giving her
write the
own report?
IEP. You have to attend the IEP meetings.
She's giving
You
her
have
own
to do
special
testing
education
now. There
report
was
after
some
the
change that occurred
hour-long
last
special
year with
education
school
report.
psychologists and
That's
testing
very
for special education students. You also have to invite the regular ed teacher to go to the meeting now. If they cannot go, you have to get their input. And you're
Well, if it's this
responsible
hard,
for
we should
have
just
a
get rid of the whole
support.
program.
All while
Yeah.
doing everything else that has to be done in a school.
Wh-
Now,
who,
what
who is
does
she
the,
screaming at? Everyone in here knows what she's talking
inclusion
about.
special education teacher do? They have a group of advocates.
That's such
that they
performative
must
note
follow
taking
through
too.
with
It's like
and
a Righteous
assign a certain
Gemstones bit,
number
honestly.
of
It's like,
students.
what
All
are
those
they
students have
writing
7
down?
classes.
They are
So you
just
have
like,
one teacher.
it's like a performance
one
where he was like,
inclusion
all right, make sure
teacher
you write
that
while I'm on
has
camera.
to touch base with all the teachers of the 7 classes to make sure that students are being successful. In some cases, certain
Kathy is
students
hoping to get tapped
require
as Maureen's scribe
more
when she
help
moves on
than
to the mayor's
others. So
seat.
you also have to
Right,
help
right.
them to be successful.
Oh my God.
So I think special education teachers are exactly what they are said, special. I'm hoping that we're able to give them some relief so that there are more special education teachers. I understand what Dr. Montrez was saying when she was talking about
Come on, dude.
regular ed teachers having to get the skills to be able to deal with the students in their classroom. But regular ed teachers also have a lot of other students and challenges in their classroom. So I would, say that 1 to 4.28 is an average and not what we see in a lot of special ed secondary classrooms. There are a lot of students, regular ed and special ed in the classrooms. And I would advocate that we need to look, if you can find them, and hire more special education teachers and have them not obtain any cuts. On the alternative school program,
All right, conflict
Worcester
of interest
Alternative
time.
School.
Let's go.
The location is very difficult for students. So I'm very interested in seeing what the attendance is in that program.
Or
The
is the
building is not
location
conducive.
difficult for
to
your daughter?
An alternative school program. It's very small. I think it's maybe 800 square feet. So that is a very small building for students that need much more room. So I want to say to Ms. Ortiz, who, by the way, is a past South High graduate that we're very proud of, that we should be doing something about looking about a different building for them. Also, I love the fact that they're doing art with students and they've started the business because the report that was written on the alternative school does state that they should have vocational education. That should be part of what those
What
students
friendly
have.
Muppet
So,
did Maureen skin before coming
congratulations
into this meeting?
on our work that's been done on the program, and I do hope that we can look for another building. Also, as Jermaine had said about I see there was an increase in out-of-district placements this year. I know that is probably because we could not meet the needs of those students, and so we had to place them elsewhere. In some cases, the out-of-district placement is a better placement than what we could provide for just one individual student in the Worcester Public Schools. I knew that we have a fairly large number of students, or used to have a fairly large students in the hard of hearing deaf program. There was a time when we had our own deaf program here, and then it went to the Framingham School for the Deaf. And so I'm wondering if we're still moving to bring all those students back to us. I see there, you had a list of some students in the district, but that's an expensive program. And it would be wonderful to bring those students back. It used to be at McGrath School, and it was at South High Community School, and then it went to Claremont. And that's how they ended up getting sign language as their world language. So it'd be wonderful to look at bringing those back. And I think that's it. Thank you for your report. Oh, one more
Okay,
thing.
that was
How
helpful.
long does it take to make a decision about Mike O'Neill? It seems like we've been talking about this for a very long time. So,
Who's
I would
Mike O'Neill?
hope that the alternative make a quick decision on what we're going to do for Mike O'Neill, and there's a timeline. Because we keep kicking this down the road, and I really think we need to come. He deserves to have a decision on this and not keep saying we're going to decide later. We said we're going to decide and we do this report.
What is?
Oh, we're not deciding now. We're pushing it again. So I would really like to make a motion that we get a date, and we're going to stick to the date this school year of what we're going to do for Mike O'Neill. Thank
Through
you.
the chair, can I just want to answer a couple of questions? So as far as the out-of-district students.
Who the hell is Mike
go,
O'Neill?
We had
Anybody
a
know?
lot of move-in students.
It rings a bell as
We
something
didn't
that someone they were looking to
necessarily
name
have
a
students,
facility after.
From Worcester, we had a few,
Oh, my
but not a lot of students from Worcester Public School end up in out-of-district placements. It was more, obviously, I think everyone here knows that we're obligated when someone moves into the district with an out-of-district placement to make sure that student gets placed as soon as possible. So that is why our numbers are really high since I've come into this position.
Welcome,
As
Caitlin.
far
Just
as the
come
deaf
and
hard
join
of
us on
hearing
Twitch.
program goes, that is one of the programs that we have been assessing really closely. So we should have some more information on that. And we can get back to you on that. And as far as the Mike O'Neill situation, we can look into that for, well, maybe I'll let Dr. Menares answer that question. Sorry.
Through the chair, so I'll speak first to the Mike O'Neill. This was actually an ask of the Worcester Alternative School. They're in the process of doing things, and we want to honor those who are doing the work. So I don't know if the school has a date yet. If we have a date, we can bring that back, but they're working through it right now. And again, that's the school that they are a part of, and it would be disrespectful to them to tell them what they need to do when they're going through a process right now. They're the ones who said to us, we're going through a process. Please allow us to finish this process. We want to recognize Mike O'Neill. We want to do it in a way that is authentic and reflective of where we're at. So that's very important to do that. As in reference to, and thank you for clarifying, because I was going to as well, the out of district placements, the majority of them have moved into the district. And so I think it's really important that when we state things in a public setting, that we're really clear about what we're saying and we have accurate information, because the public is listening. And if we're not sure, then it's our responsibility just to ask questions first before we make statements. So the majority of the placements came into our district, and that is why those placements have gone up, which have had a fiscal impact that we could not plan for, but we made those arrangements for. Finally, I do want to just clarify, there was a statement made about a school was told they could not do co-teaching this school year. We have not told any school from the district level that they could not do co-teaching. A school may choose to do that because perhaps they have a new staff who needs more training. Perhaps they had to make some changes in how they're offering because of the service model, but that is not something that's done from the district level. Each school is uniquely different, especially when it comes to the special ed children there. So again, that's a statement that I just want to clarify and not leave hanging. We would never tell a school who has the capacity, the knowledge, the staff to offer co-teaching that they cannot offer co-teaching. That's not the way we work in Worcester Public Schools. I'll return back to you, Member Johnson, Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you. All set? Are you all set?
No, I just wanted to address what Superintendent State. So I think my point.
You guys ready to see this bird?
An increase in our
We're
district
mid-debate here,
assistance.
Bill.
Not saying how that happened. but
We've undertaken
there
the
was an
Lincoln
increase
Douglas
in
format
that.
for this one.
And
Bad timing on my bird.
as far
Now,
as
show us the bird.
No,
there
we'll
was
wait. We'll wait
not,
till the debate's over.
it was the
It's a beautiful bird.
L
You love
special
the
ed
bird.
model at one of the high schools did not get to continue this year. And so maybe the people involved never got that information got to you, but I don't want to
God
leave
damn
it
it.
that
The bird
was,
got in the way of the
something
only
that I'm
part of the
saying that
meeting I
wasn't truthful. And that model is not existent in that school right now. For what reason? I don't know, but whatever I say based on fact and based on things that I know. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Biancaria.
Give us the bird, Bill. What do we got here?
All right,
Good
all right.
evening.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly would like to
Okay,
thank
we don't
you
need
for
to
your
hear what
presentation.
Diana
Excellent.
is saying.
A lot of exciting things are continuing, coming into the door as new. I think that's terrific. Majority of the members covered a great deal of what I had for notes and so on. So hopefully we're quick. And I was curious. I know in past years we had internships for some of
Oh,
our kids.
It looks fantastic.
So I didn't hear internships this evening, so I'm just a little curious through administration. Are we still
This right here, my
allowing our
friends,
students
is a
to
whole ass
have
bird.
the internships along with the fact
Don't sit on
that
it.
I don't know
we
how to
talked
put it
about
down
their
on my
college
desk.
and
Put
careers
it back in
and
the
their
oven.
different thoughts,
Wow.
but an internship
Wow. See?
certainly
City Council, this could be a
for,
beef Wellington, you know what I mean?
some of the students brought them to that next level of being successful as an adult. So I certainly,
So through the chair, if I could answer. So we have internships at our transitions program. The majority of the students there are out in the community, and it is quite impressive how many of those students are participating in internships.
thank you. And then with the data, I would like to include with that motion.
I like how this entire table is having a hard
that
time keeping a
motion
straight
that,
face right
the
now.
data includes
Yeah.
the number of students that are 18,
You know,
19,
Diana, we
20,
have a couple
21,
programs for
22,
you.
because that does make a difference when we look at our budget and what we would like to allot in different areas. So if we could have included in the data the ages from 18 to 22, because that does make a difference. Sometimes we have 10, sometimes we have 2. So we
What
would
is she
like to
talking about?
be able to then look at those ages, because again, going back to what opportunities can we offer to them? If
Yeah, that's
they
a
are
good
with
point. I
us
don't think
until
that the
they're 22,
Telegram has
then we certainly want to be able
full-time
to
education
have
reporter
them
anymore.
perhaps look at different opportunities
So
for
there's just
employment.
not a lot of schools
So they are
coverage getting-
successful, and
happening.
whether they're perhaps not so independent, but it brings them to that next level that makes them feel as though adulthood is not so frightening. Thank you. And again.
Which again, it's just
congratulations, great
wild.
job.
Even if you just look at the number of people who are tuning in on Facebook
Thank
to
you,
watch
Member
this,
Millman.
and then trying to imagine how many people are watching on Zoom or whatever, like clearly there's an audience, and we don't have anyone from the Telegram covering.
First of all, on a light note, I was at Worcester Alternative a couple of weeks ago, and it is clear that there is just a spirit amongst the teachers that frankly, I think has always been there. And I know the prior art teacher, since we've had art, is one of my best and oldest friends. It is great to see the work that Stacy doing continue because I think it's always been an important part of the alternative schools. So I appreciate that. I'll say this first or last. I'll hold it to last.
That's true, Nate Southwell.
What I see in this report through the chair is a significant amount of work in every single corner of special ed. And I have a little bit of a pit in my stomach. And we were just told a couple of minutes ago that everything was top notch. And I think this audit showed that we're not top notch and that we have a ton of work to do and that the intention and what you're putting forward is to correct what hadn't been done properly. So I guess I want to give this team an opportunity through the chair, maybe to the superintendent or to Dr. Murray. How did we get here?
Oh, boy.
Superintendent?
Through the chair, I'll start and then I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Murray. So just to clarify how did
Well,
we
we
get to
stopped
where
doing
we
things
are with
so
the
fucking
audit,
stupid.
what the findings were? That's your
The way you
question.
guys have been
I
doing it.
think findings to me, I mean, when I read the strengths to leverage and the areas for growth, I see a lot of things like awareness of needed professional development as a strength to leverage. Well, that just says clearly that we haven't had enough professional development. And so I just think that there's a lot that was found in this audit that we are not doing, the district was not doing well. And so what do we have to, I guess, how do we get there?
Yeah.
I get where we're going. I get what was presented today. I'm not a special education expert, maybe the only one in the room, but I'm not. And I just don't. So how do we get there?
So thank you for clarifying. I wanted to make sure my initial response is to that. And then again, Dr. Murray, fill in whatever I don't share. I'll just give broad perspective. It's been my experience in my 30 years of education and being a director of special education at one time, and then overseeing a very large, in California, they're called SELPAs, which is what San Bernardino was, where we provided every program for over 8,000 children, that what can happen in special education over time. And it's always coming from a good place. Special education educators, as Member Benenda said, have the biggest heart. They love their children. And so what happens over time, because many people who are not special education educators don't completely understand special education, and it gets scary because it's very legalistic. And it is the one place I learned quickly as the director of special education that families can really hold us accountable. They can get lawyers and they can hold us accountable to what the law says. There's no other place in education that does that. It's our moral imperative, right? So it's scary to those who don't know it. As a result, what I have seen happen, and not being here in Worcester, but seeing where we're at now, what I have seen is the special education department becomes its own little siloed entity in a district and tries to manage everything as it relates to the children in special education, because the others will gladly let you do that because they don't completely understand it, and it can be scary, and it's complex. How you get out of that is, one, having a leader that says, no, all means all. When you have a special ed child at your school, that is your child and your responsibility, principal, every teacher, everybody who walks through that door. We provide additional services because that's what the IEP calls for that child to excel. But you've got to have a message that says a child who has an active IEP is part of everything that happens at that school, and then they get more on top of that, right? So that's a big part of it, breaking down the silos. Another part that is huge in special education, and I used to say this a lot when I was leading San Bernardino, is Dr. Murray is not the principal of special education. That's not her job. There's a principal at every school. She oversees programs. She oversees the funding sources. She monitors, she makes sure people have.
I don't
that
think I realized that
information.
Dr.
But
Menares
everybody
was a
else has
former
to own
special
all
ed
of
director.
that, right? And so that we need to
I didn't
build
know that
their
either.
capacity.
What other ways is she
so that
awesome,
they
Bill?
confident
Yeah,
to be
right?
able to do that. When we take it on and a special education department just says, we'll take care of everything. We'll do all our hiring. We'll take care of all the assessments. We'll
This
do,
compared to
you
Marine
do
going,
everything
when are you
and
gonna
nobody
name that
comes do
school
anything
after
well.
my
Or
friend?
we are trying to do everything. And so it requires so much staff that when.
He's the
they
highest
gotta-
paid principal in the district. We've run out of ways to reward him. Got to give him a
So it just-
building.
It really is this siloing that happens. It's all from a really good place. But we get to this place where we have 20% of our children who are identified. That's way too many children. Federally, we should have 10%. It's gone up a little bit. It's more, I've seen districts now 11 to 12, but 20% is a phenomenal number. That's not okay. We need to fix that, right? And again, that's an example of special ed taking on and saying, I'll fix it because they want children to succeed, right? So that's what I would say, what I've experienced. Dr. Murray, you've been doing this since September, I think. What would you add to that?
So I have a few things through the share. I have a few things to add. So I would agree with that. The silos, there were silos prior to, the Q team model coming back. So I'm really excited to, have that Q team model and really assess the needs of every student and every staff member.
Totally,
in
Camber.
those quadrants. But it's also really important.
You end up with a room full of people, very comfortable,
The audit showed
kind of
this,
saying
that
out
we
loud,
need
yeah,
to
Maureen didn't do a
fully
good job.
assess each one of our programs. So it starts with, and I can tell you as not only a service provider in this district for over 25 years, but as a parent and also as a product of the Worcester Public Schools. So we really need a thorough assessment of our programs. And the audit also showed that we need our procedures in place and processes that are really clear. But the other area I'm going to let Gina talk to is our really goes back to the classroom and providing that tier 1 support.
Through the chair. As a Worcester Public School special education teacher for over 13 years, we have done professional development on co-teaching. I've done several co-teaching professional developments, but I think what this administration is focusing on is that really strong tier 1 instruction where conversations about special education students are happening at tables where there are several people that are involved. And Amanda is the perfect example of that. When our Q teams go in, they're having discussions with assistant principals, school adjustment counselors, special education department heads, general education teachers, again, building that capacity, that coaching the coach model. So now when we're having these conversations and this professional development is happening, I think we're going to be a little bit more mindful about not just targeting those special education teachers, but bringing in our general education teachers, right? It's a toolbox we can all
Ruth,
work out
I
of.
don't think she
And when we
walks
all
away
have our hands
embarrassed.
in
I
that
think she
toolbox,
hears
our
all
kids are
this
so
and
much more
all she
successful.
thinks is that
So
everybody
I
else is wrong. For her, this is some bizarro land
I
confirmation
have had the
bias.
pleasure of working with Amanda and a ton like her that are on our Q teams so that we're going to be able to support each other so that we're lifting our students to reach the highest levels of success.
Thank you. On page 7 of the report, it's the
Man,
24,000.
that is good chicken.
744
This meeting needs to wrap up.
Students with disabilities, I think is SWD.
Don't eat my chicken.
Okay. How do we, so on the full inclusion, the substantially separate and the most restrictive, how do we compare to the state? Does anybody know that?
Well, we can get back to you. We could get back to
Okay.
you with that.
So I guess I'd make a motion for that information. And also why in this, we have an English learner category on this slide too, and I'm curious why
So
it's
that's
there.
for the, through the chair, that's for our dually diagnosed students. So that would mean that student is a student with a disability and also is an English language learner.
Okay,
We have obviously a lot of those students. We have 36%.
okay. And so then back to which I have heard several times in my, just coming into my third year on this school committee, that we have a very high number of special ed students. And we think that there's a lot going on here. Am I recalling that? That's probably why. That maybe these English language learners there's more diagnosis within this group
Through the
that
chair.
we are wondering about. Is that fair to say?
Through the chair to the superintendent.
Yes, through the chair. That is the conjecture. We need to keep digging deeper. First, starting with making sure that our educators understand the stages of language acquisition, what that looks like in practice,
Yes.
and how when then you're assessing a child to determine if there's a disability, taking out the language part of it. I am, when I've spoken with various special ed educators in the district, just in passing, they have said to me that we have over-identified our English learners, and that was told to me last year. And the numbers make it look that way too. But we've got to make sure that everyone understands language acquisition first to then be able to decipher it all out. So long answer to yes, that's the conjecture.
Okay, thank you. And why it was on that slide, I guess, right? There were several places within this report where we talk about we've got to have equitable access to materials. There's a lot of, it seems, inconsistency. And so there's a lot of goals that are for consistency. And can you provide any more color on that? Do we see that more in elementary schools? Do we see the inconsistencies in particular schools, high schools, or any other?
Through the
So-
chair to Dr. Murray.
Okay, so through the chair, so it's pretty inconsistent throughout the district, I would say, when it's not elementary or middle school, but it's really about having good processes and procedures in place where we're taking inventory, where we're monitoring that inventory, and we're making sure that all of our schools have equal access to materials. So that's something that's one of what the audit did show, that we had that.
Is that like a job site where you hog all the good ladders and you don't give them to? I probably get that. Okay. Okay, anything else you want to say?
No,
Okay. And I guess the training needs jump out too. And so to the dollars that we're gonna have to somehow replace, and I get that we need to be smarter with these dollars across the board. The training needs are so critical to this. So like, as you have all pointed out, that the co-teaching model is so important because we can get a bigger bang for our buck. It'll be fun to watch how that proceeds. And then the last thing, Chair, I just want to comment on is I don't think it's appropriate to throw if we're going to make a statement on the floor about something that happened at a school, but we're not willing to name the school, I don't think we should be talking about it on the floor. So I'm going to make a motion that we maybe send that to governance. So I don't know what the appropriate place is, but it is not appropriate in my mind to listen to a story this happened in this school, and then there's a back and forth about whether it happened, and the school's not even mentioned. If you're gonna say it, state the school, put the data on the table, or save it for another day. So I would just
Sick.
ask you to
Please stop being
make a motion
petty.
to-
Adjudicating your petty grievances on the city council floor.
Okay.
Or school
I-
committee.
Our rules don't allow that, and it shouldn't happen on this floor again, and so somebody should be called out of order if that happens.
Thank you.
Hell yeah,
Anyone
Sue.
else? Thank you all very much for the presentation. You guys are doing, you guys are doing a great job. Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you.
That's like
right,
all of
so
what
we-
Diana and
we are
Maureen
going to
do. Is
look
they're just like,
to
yeah, I heard over
approve
there
and file the
something's
report
going
of the
on.
Superintendent with the motions. Do we want to take the motions collectively or separately?
What do we got after this?
Collectively?
This is just the first
All right, so
item.
we just take it collectively. You don't need me to read off the motions. do
The
you?
report of the standing
Roll call.
committee.
Member Alvarez.
And then we have
Excuse me.
like 5
Yes.
orders.
Member Biancaria.
And then it's chicken time for this guy.
Member being carried.
Thank you. Did the last remark that came from Member Millman, is that in a motion?
It's not a motion. Roll call.
Wow.
Member
Great. 10 out
Alvarez.
of 10, Donna.
Yes.
I mean,
Member
Diana.
Biancaria.
Yes.
Member Benenda.
Yes.
Member Guardiola.
Yes.
Vice Chair Johnson.
Yes.
Member Mailman.
Yes.
Member McCullough.
Yes.
Member Roy.
Yes.
Mayor Pitt.
So we move on to report of standing committee, teaching, learning, student success. Member Guardiola.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. The Standing Committee on Teaching, Learning, and Student Success met on March 20,
So
2024.
the mayor is
The meeting was called
always
to order at
high
5
key
p.m.
checked out of school committee. He has
Present
no
was
idea
Vice
what's going on.
Chairwoman
He just
Vanessa
sits
Alvarez,
there.
Member Maureen Benenda,
And often
Member
he
Sue
doesn't even
Mailman,
sit there.
and me as the chair. On behalf of the administration, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Maureen Morse, Dr. Tim Sipple, Executive Director of
Realistically,
the
it's a
South
bad idea to
Quadrant,
have the mayor
and
be the
Lori
chairman
Kuska,
of both the city
Director
council
of
and the
the
school
Early
committee.
Childhood Education.
How could you expect
We
somebody
had 3
to do both
items,
those things?
and first item was GB 2-61.2, request that the administration before further expansion of pre-K programming in Worcester Public Schools include local nonprofit early education and care partners in order to incorporate lessons learned and to avoid pitfalls of 20 years ago. Lori Kuska updated the committee on initiative with Worcester Public Schools early education, most notably the CPPI grants. If awarded, would bring the Edward Street, the YWCA, the Guild of St. Agnes, and the Worcester Public Schools together to create early childhood education.
I'd
leadership,
love for
teams
to see
understand
the
current and
the
future
bottom
needs of the
half of a
community.
fist fight.
The goal of the
in the hallway
CPPI
right
grant
here.
is to keep students in their community. Community programs like the YWCA and the Guild of St. Agnes while receiving special education services in their own settings. Director Kuska said that
I like
the
shaking
grant,
'cause he's
is
got
in
that
the
large
Hutchinson
dunks,
planning
dude.
Grant now, if awarded, the planning money would hopefully be awarded implementation money that could be something we could discuss in the community assessment work, and we could ask for a home care provider to be added during implementation. Right now, the focus is on special education services. Edward Street is an advocacy group for home health care providers. Member Mailman asked if we will be expanding the pre-K services, to which Dr. Morse answered that this is a plan, but we are still waiting to review some budgetary information. This would not be part of the Head Start program. Member Mailman made a motion to hold this item and request an update once the grant is awarded. On roll call, the motion passed 4-0. The second item we took up was GB 3-262 to share any discussions on Worcester's evaluation of gifted programs and what plans are in place to develop a fully functional program for gifted students. Dr. Siplo responded to the item. He said that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts does not have an official definition of gifted, nor does it establish any official criteria for identifying such students. However, he is happy to share that the details of the 2 programs that WPS has already had for many years that cater to and attempt to meet the needs of high school achieving students. The Goddard Scholar, which is housed at Sullivan Middle for middle school students from grades 6 to 8, and South High for high school students, as well as the Hanover Academy for Arts, which is housed at Burncoat Middle for the middle school students, and then at Burncoat High School for those in high school. Dr. Sipple went on to explain that these students academic work as a cohort and special enrichment courses. The admission process for these academies is based on the STAR reading assessment, and which was formerly based off the MCAS, and the change led to slightly higher diversity rates than in the past with each program. Students who meet criteria are invited to apply. Dr. Sipple also said the administration team is not recommending expansion of these programs to include elementary students at this time. Member Mailman mentioned that she was happy to hear about the increased diversity in the admissions using STAR program. Dr. Morse answered that the district is re-examining everything relating to special programs and has high variety of different pathways and programs available to students in Worcester Public Schools to ensure opportunities are available for students who are right for them. Dr. Morse said the administration is working closely with Parent Information Center and that WPS needs to make sure all schools are aware, so they're working on their family guidebook. This is in addition to the school directors, wraparound coordinators, a new website and a new app called Parent Square are bringing information and good news out to the families that WPS has to offer. We did have one public comment. Dina Tedeschi from 25 Morgan Street. Worcester made a public comment about the honors program and asked the question about lottery programs. She offered assistance in reaching out to site counselors and PTOs to work with family engagement. I asked Ms. Tedeschi to reach out directly to the school committee office and with contact information so we can get some answers for her. Member Mailman made a motion for the administration to provide data on who is attending the high achiever programs on roll call. The motion passed 4-0. Member Alvarez also made a motion to get a report on communication efforts and community outreach via the new app and website for these programs, and how can we engage further on roll call. That also passed 4-0. The last item we took up was GB 4-19 to get a presentation on modern classroom projects, including teacher and student feedback from the participating. Member Benenda finds this program fascinating, would like to hear more about it and how the program is working. It is a PD opportunity for educators. Dr. Morse clarified that this was a PD opportunity through a third party, Modern Classrooms, and it aligns beautifully with our vision of learner programs and educators to get more involved with technology assessing. Member Mailman noted a couple of teachers at Burncoat are actually implementing some of what they've learned at this PD session. She also made Member Mailman made a motion to hold this item and have a survey taken about the PD that was taken to get feedback from educators who participated. On roll call, that also passed 4-0. At that time, the meeting was ended and we adjourned at 5:47. That's the report from TLS.
Thank you. The motion to file. Those opposed? No, so ordered. So we will move on to general business. Response from administration. Member Biancardi made a motion to receive a report on what could be provided for funding in order to give students needing physical education courses at Gerald Creamer Center for the evening program for an opportunity to complete those required credits in order to graduate. And as a response from administration, any questions on that? Member Biancardi?
Thank you. In regards to organized activities, I didn't see that portion of that listed there, and from what I understood, that those activities are supposed to be organized, and I know they're at night, and I'm sure they're tired, but the students have grades on that, and I'm concerned with signing off when they're not actually doing organized activities, because I think it builds a team. I feel as though that's part of what they also need to learn, and the actual class should be together because I don't see a lot of their activities being as a team. It's more as an individual. So through administration, I just was curious on if they did have any regards for organized activities on that.
Through the chair, member Vankaria, are you asking, as it refers to special, I'm sorry, special, just
No.
for physical education,
Correct.
organized activities in the evening
Yes.
program? So even during the day, because
She's
I was
talking about
just at GCC,
PE?
their organized activities for physical education is not as much teamwork. One, because they don't have the space for it. There is a physical education teacher there. I saw some students actually playing ping pong the other day. So they teach the skills in different ways. And so for students who come in the evening, what has been shared with us is they have the physical education is not the need. If it is a need, then they work through this the off-campus physical education because the student might be participating something in the community, but very rarely does that become the need. And then the school makes those necessary arrangements so that that doesn't become the barrier to them graduating. To your question though about the teamwork, I understand what you're saying. You see that a lot at UCC where the students are very much like focused on just theirs. It's interesting to watch it because it's like they've kind of come full circle in a sense, and they have realized that I want to get my diploma. I'm going to stay focused on what I need. And so they've got a handful of children or friends that they hang out with, but they're very much in tune to get their work done. Many of them are working, as you know. So I think some of it is the nature of the school and the students that are there.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Benenda?
Yes, so I was reading the
Yes.
phys ed requirement program, and there is some sentences that are left off that from the policy of the Worcester Public Schools. So the policy on that says that the course does require an organized activity. Students are required to keep a log. They
It's
have to be
so
personally
transparent
assigned
what
to
she's
monitor the
doing. It's
assignment. And
crazy.
they're only allowed to do the alternate phys ed twice within 4 years. And every student must take phys ed every year. So I would really like to really advocate, if all is all, that there is a PE teacher that is added to the Joe Crema evening program. Thank you.
Do you want that to be your daughter?
Okay, so
Maureen?
motion
Are you
to
looking for
approve
more
and
work
file.
for your daughter?
Those that oppose? No, so ordered.
How is she allowed to speak about that? That's
Responsible
crazy.
Administration to provide a report that includes the number of 1/5 teachers per school and subject, including cost per teacher per school. Member Benenda. Yeah, so. Any questions regarding the response? Backup?
Nope, through the
Member
chair-
Benenda?
Through the chair. So I know that, first of all, I was amazed how many 1/5 teachers we have. I'm not sure if everybody knows what that is. So basically, what that is that there are too many, secondary teachers can only, except for phys ed and that, teach 125 students. That's all they can have for their caseload. So if they go over 125 students.
Wouldn't it
then
be better to
they
assume
have
we did
one.
know what it meant
That's
and
called a fifth. And they usually get a.
not
fifth
speak
of the
down to all of us
$10,000
for another 5
that.
minutes?
So at one time, I remember, I might have had 13 fifths because it just were so many kids and not enough teachers. So it's a better way of then hiring a whole teacher is just to have them pick up, they'll teach their 5 classes and then they'll teach that other class. So my question to administration is, I know there are 5 teachers at South High Community School that have not been paid, and each of them is owed $2,500. And I know there was some challenge with the schedule or whatever, but the bottom line is that these teachers were not paid from August until, I don't know if it's October. They have received their pay since that time. They have been working with the union. Still, it's a very long
Okay, so they
time
got
for them
paid?
not to receive their pay. And I'd really like to make a motion that these 5 teachers that came to $10,000 at South High Community School do receive their pay for their 1/5 class that they have not received. Thank you.
This is item
Is
422.
this currently, a union matter that's being,
Through the chair, yes, this is a grievance that is in process and we are working with EAW to finalize it.
this is current, if this is currently a union grievance matter, I don't think that should be, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Discussed.
Discussed on the floor regarding to personnel and payment and things like that, on the floor, Member Benenda. So I would actually probably consider that to be out of order.
So, through the chair though, it got to grievance because it wasn't paid.
Yeah,
So it
But-
is in grievance right now.
but,
I do think that,
But-
we should support that those teachers do get paid the money that they're owed.
but I think
But it's
we're
a
out of order
grievance.
here
You
to talk
can't-
about a matter that we could potentially be taken up in executive session. It shouldn't be talked about and played out on the floor.
Okay,
So
then
again,
let's move it
I-
to the next executive.
I'm going to
session.
rule that out of order at this time. And
The union brings grievances
you
to
made a motion,
executive
so
session.
actually, since I'm ruling out, we're not going to do the motion.
It's out of order. Just move on.
So, any other questions regarding the report back from administration?
No, but can I make the motion then to move it to executive session?
No.
I think I can.
I wouldn't trust the clerk on this one.
Typically,
To be fair.
it's, if there's a matter that is brought, if there's a matter that needs to be brought to executive session, that will be brought through the union with our and we would take that up with our legal team, with Sean, and we would take that up in executive session. We don't make a motion to take up a grievance or money on the floor. Am I out of line here, Member McCullough?
Through the chair, I think the reason why we wouldn't do this is if there is a current grievance, we cannot push it to executive session because it could jeopardize our own legal standing. So it would have to be something that would come to us through the attorney and the union because it becomes a legal matter. We would be putting ourselves in some type of legal quagmire that we should not be getting into, and that's why it would be out of order at this time.
Thank you.
Through the chair, could we get a legal opinion on that, please?
Yeah. We could do that.
Through the chair.
Superintendent?
A grievance would be moved past the superintendent if the grievance was denied. The grievance has not been denied. The grievance is in process. That's where it needs to be right now. It is in process. We are working with the EAW.
Yeah, I think, but I do think we're out of line here, bringing this up on the floor.
Can I make a suggestion that we halt?
Yeah.
Because at this point, asking for a legal opinion is as far as we want to go. To be honest with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
we.
Separate question.
Member Melman?
On this report that we got, it seems most of these 1/5 positions are to cover vacant positions except at South, which is to cover class size. I don't know if anybody might have an answer why that would be.
Mr. Allen?
Through the chair to Member Mailman. So the 1/5 contractual right is usually used either to cover medical absences,
Yep.
short term,
Can see-
or when a teacher gives up their preparation period and teaches a 6th period. So they voluntarily would teach a 6th period.
Yep.
In this case, because of class sizes or student loads, it was necessary to create these 1/5 opportunities. It's entirely voluntary, done by the teachers, and it's their 6th period that they would be teaching this addition.
Understood, but any weird reason why class size is at South is an issue?
Through the chair, the enrollment at South is higher than what we had anticipated and budgeted positions for.
Thank you.
Thank you. So motion to file? Those,
No. Just move on.
huh? We're approved.
You can't do that.
I think Diana actually might be doing the right thing here right now. I mean, she has some experience with public unions, and I think she was trying to get Maureen to just stop talking, basically. And, like, short of throwing a grenade in the middle of the room,
All
like
right,
this is the best she.
I guess a motion to hold. I think we could get a legal opinion. We could get a legal opinion on this and we could approve and file this item. She answered the item. There was a different issue that member Belinda brought up. So motion to approve and file. Those that oppose. Let's take a roll call on this. Roll call.
Member Alvarez,
Yes.
member Biancaria,
No.
member Benenda,
No.
member Guardiola,
Yes.
Vice Chair Johnson,
Yes.
member Mailman,
Yes.
member McCullough,
Yes.
member Roy,
No.
So file. Thank you. Response from administration.
It was a roll call to file.
Member Mailman made a motion
So,
to receive additional information.
I think the
on what
concern there, where Diana
schools
might
asked
actually
to
been
have-
doing the right
what schools
thing,
asked to
is by
have,
taking a vote
Portuguese,
and acknowledging the
astronomy,
issue
as
in
well
a public body.
as African
They're running
American
the risk of there being a
Anyone
perception
have
of
any questions?
collusion on the behalf of the administration and the governing body over the administration in regards to a
Rules of
union
order.
grievance that still stands. So
Right.
Diana was
request
just,
an
if you watched her in the
update
corner,
on
she was like
grants
doing
that are
like
being
the
requested
cutthroat
for
thing the entire time. Like,
programs
she
that
just
may
didn't
be
want it being
impacted by the
discussed, which is
budget.
correct.
Please
That should
list
never be
the
brought up in
applicable
an open meeting,
programs that
any
identify-
conversation regarding an active union grievance.
That's
It should
from
have just been declared
administration.
out of order or a
To
point of order
approve easement
and moved
to
on.
National Grid for properties situated on the northwesterly side of Huntley Street and the southerly side of Midland Street. Any questions? Motion to approve. Also ordered. To consider approval of the 2022-23 annual report from the Central Mass Collaborative.
Maine South Mom, she kind of teased out
Questions?
one issue with a report that came
Motion to
back
approve
regarding
the
a number of 1/5 teachers
I'm
at
sorry.
one
Member
school
Millman?
who have a grievance
Procedural
with the
quick
union
question.
that they
This
haven't been
is-
paid for their time as 1/5 teachers.
Nope, it is, never mind, all set.
Motion to approve and file.
Oh, we're cooking now.
Approved, so ordered.
Damn.
To request administration provide an update.
Maureen had a good run
report
tonight.
On reference.
She's
to
been
the
kinda
budgeting
boring
and
for the past couple meetings, but she
financing
had a real
for
good run
Worcester East
tonight.
Middle School, including projects and timelines of completion being carried.
Again, this isn't my area of expertise, Ruthos, but I think, again,
Thank you.
because it's an active
A couple of
grievance,
facts.
you're giving the
We have a
impression that the
counselor,
administration is
Judge
discussing
Russell, that
the grievance.
has,
The
asked
committee
for a
is discussing the
report
grievance.
from,
None of
administration
which really should be taking
to the
place in an
council
open
in
session. Those are
reference
private
to Worcester
conversations.
East Middle
So it would give
School.
the impression, I might be using the wrong word
And-
here,
and
but of
part
collusion
that
on behalf
is
of the administration for
consideration that it is one of the
taking
older
a
buildings. It
angle
does
of
need
approach
some
that might
work.
not be the correct legal angle of approach.
We look at moving this from
I know, Kimber. I have a
completion of a new
timestamp.
building. We were given the year
Um,
20.
it's also just
2040.
like
So,
wildly unprofessional to do that. in
That is
general.
why.
Yeah,
I
it's
So-
10 grand
so
of the
project's
largest
timeline
chunk of the
completion,
budget for the city of Worcester,
of
$10,000.
Worcester East Middle.
Right.
This is 7th and 8th grade school. Right now, it has the high needs student ratio of
It's just the,
93.24.
and it's guarantee you,
low
it's
income at
because she knows one of them
84%.
personally.
Enrollment
I
of
mean, the nepotism
695
and shit
students.
is just out of control here.
And we discussed windows for a number of years to get done, and We just had
Especially
our
just
meeting
considering the
Monday
role, right? I
evening,
mean, she's clearly trying to set
and
up the
we were able
superintendent to
talk
fail
about the
in
windows
front of
getting
the union
completed.
and be able to
Right.
use that against
And
her down the
work,
line. But as a
absolutely,
committee
those windows
person,
will
your
get
fiduciary
done
responsibility
for
is
a
to the
number of
district,
years.
not to the
So
individual
we're looking
teachers.
at
Like that's where it gets uncomfortable
2025.
sometimes and you have to just take a step
We
back
have
and not get
it
involved.
done now, or 20,025, how you win for it. But any information that we receive
It's
on
very
Worcester
George Russell
Middle will be
coded.
beneficial to all of us as committee members. And when we look at budget issues, we are looking at having to cut back, but we need boilers, we need windows, we need whiteboards, we need basic supplies, along with having some improvements to our schools. So I look forward to receiving this information.
The windows were a great addition.
And working with Counselor Russell as we move forward to speak to the neighborhood people for Worcester East Middle. It seems to come up at our neighborhood meetings quite often. And a number of remarks are made, and I don't want to see that enrollment decrease because people are disappointed. So my thought is I'll have the ability to then say this project is going to get done, this is going to get done, and we have some timelines on it. So I would appreciate the information from administration. Thank you.
You're talking about the window project or just
Just
overall?
Overall general projects that will be being done and the timelines on that. It is a major discussion with our council also.
Before I go ahead, Member Belinda. I'm sorry. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Member Belinda raised her.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Member.
Through the chair, my question is that accelerated repair project through MSBA?
Yes, the Accelerated Repair Program is the MSBA program.
Dude, I cannot handle this another twice in 1 week.
To the chair, no, the windows are being replaced through a separate funding source, an ARPA. It's an IVAC grant. That grant, I believe, will be on the next school committee agenda for acceptance by the school committee.
Oh, don't let
Just
George
one more
Russell know.
question to Mr. Allen. So if replacing the windows and any other repairs at Worcester East Middle, will that in any way impact our supply for the MSBA for a new building?
No.
Through the chair, Mr. Allen.
The chair, so when we start filing a statement of interest for the replacement of Worcester East Middle, that is for either major renovation or replacement. It's through the feasibility study process of the MSB process would determine whether it's a renovation or replacement project. We don't define that upfront. That's done through the feasibility process.
Okay. Member Melman.
Clarification on the first part of this order. I believe the Finance and Operations Committee is seeing a report of building maintenance projects. I think there's a very clear, I watched your meeting afterwards, process for how we'll see timelines. Is that, did I miss something?
That's the former
Or
superintendent
wouldn't that be
of the
where
school
we'd look
district
for the
asking that question.
Information
It's just
that's
stunning.
requested.
Yeah.
Mr. Allen.
Through the chair, so just as a recap, we've already replaced the boiler through MSBA accelerator repair, replaced the roof through
No, on these
accelerator repair,
ongoing projects that will,
and then through the IVAC grant, the window replacement. When it comes to the replacement of the school, we'll be working with the city manager
Yeah.
on determining a time frame of when we'll be submitting an SOI to MSBA for that school. That's entirely up to city funding for that project.
I think I was understanding, because I watched the council meeting too, that I think the counselor was looking for, updates on work that was happening at East Middle, like any counselor would probably be interested in their district. And I think that if indeed this school, this administration decides that Worcester East Middle is the next school to do and brings forth a recommendation, I think, to our body, I think eventually that might happen, but maybe I misunderstood the question, but I thought this question was about kind of ongoing maintenance until we get to that point. And I feel like my comment was that we have something in place to talk about our building maintenance, work and repair and continuing progress.
Through the chair.
Fallon?
So first, Worcester East Middle, we've said a number of times, Worcester East Middle is our next priority project.
Okay.
In the meantime, we have a 5-year capital plan, which will be included in the FY25 budget of what our facilities department has determined to be the priority projects to be addressed over the next 5 years for our $3.5 million of capital spending.
Thank you.
God, right now, I was probably so tired of talking about this.
Member
right now.
McCullough?
Through the chair, I don't know, I raised my hand again after you already told me to stand up. It's getting late, not late, just long. I guess then I would say, if this is something that we already have, then sending to administration, can we just get that back in some type of report? And, or is it, it does all right, Member Benenda, that we just get that capital plan sent to us again, through the administration, so that we see where the different Worcester, East projects are, and perhaps those could just be highlighted again for members, so that it's something that's already available. I know it's already available. I'm just saying if it could just be sent a week. All right, sorry. I'm just trying to think of the easiest way so it doesn't have to come back again full time, because I think we already have this in finance operations governance. Originally I was going to ask about just going there and toggling on, but if it's just something we're getting that way, never mind. Maybe I'm making it more complicated.
All set? We all set?
Are we all set?
So what I was going to say was based on the item that we have something in F and O that will talk about this stuff as is coming up in regards to the work at Worcester East Middle and any other school within the district. So this is already being dealt with in F and O, and it's an ongoing quarterly report that we will continue to get back in regards to any school matters.
I clearly understand what you were referring to. And yes, I've seen the quarterly report. However, when a city councilor brings this to the attention of their committee, and that is then brought to the superintendent's attention.
That's
then
not
as
how this
school committee
works.
members,
George can bring anything he wants to the attention of the
certainly puts up a
superintendent.
red
It's not in
flag.
his purview.
It's not in the manner that there's something wrong, it's just in the manner that we should be paying attention. And as someone who is in that district and who works with Russell,
You
Councilor
don't
Russell,
work with
on a
Russell
number
on,
of different projects. This is obviously something that I feel as though is important, including the fact that there was an article that said Worcester East Middle was the priority. It clearly said that from a staff member for Worcester Public Schools. So yes, we have it in 25 pages. What I'm simply saying is you're sending a report to City Council. I probably can receive the same report, so I have it, and I can jointly work with our council to go over it. So I don't,
Just
I don't.
look at the city
see
council
why it
agenda.
would be an
What do
issue
you,
to receive that. And I, just from what the superintendent and I are looking at each other back and forth, she clearly understands what I'm looking
So
for.
well, I guess I missed something. Then. So you're already providing.
Through the chair, I have not received a formal ask from city
Okay.
council,
Sure.
maybe, but we can understood the ask so that you have information to provide to your constituents. And so it will peel out the part that is related to Worcester East and get that.
And I, forgive me, but I couldn't tell you specifically what Judge Russell had asked for as a city councilor, but I know it encompasses what I have put down here in addition to other items. So
God, this is so
certainly would
embarrassing,
appreciate it.
dude.
Thank you.
You know, and part of the problem, Bill,
We'll
goes
send this
back
to
to
him
what
in-
was being
in the
discussed
future.
earlier.
Those that
the lack of
oppose,
education reporting in
no,
the
so
city.
ordered.
That story that came out after the Tuesday meeting
modify
in
fiscal
regards
year
to
25
the Burncoat
budget
project,
schedule to
the
include a
vote going
report
into
on the
feasibility
proposed
study,
cuts to
and then
schools
a
and
future
personnel due
vote
to the
on
fiscal year
East
25
Middle.
budget
It was
deficit.
written terribly and showed a complete lack of understanding
sorry.
of the MSBA process.
To request that
Yeah.
administration.
Can't only say
provide an
that because former
update
colleagues at the MSBA reached out again to say, what the fuck is wrong with
on
you
school
people?
choice,
Like,
including
it's-
funding, number of requests, and
I mean,
the
people
number of
read this
students, as
shit.
well
It's
as the
not like
budget for school choice account.
we look
I
like
didn't
a
even
bunch of
bother to read the story because I just couldn't.
I look
bring myself
forward
to
to
do
this
it.
going.
we just
to
look like
finance
bumbling idiots who
operations,
can't get
the
out of our own
government,
way because there's a
committee.
very,
And the
very
reason I
well
say
thought out
that is,
process and we
for
can't figure it out.
Several years, we, as Worcester Public Schools, were able to have.
just get dark?
The
Yeah.
school choice students. And at times, this allotted dollars. And we were able to gain in some years
weird.
close to $500,000. So now is the time to take a look at this for under the budget, which we will be looking at. So I think it'll be interesting to see how we're doing this and bringing this with the number of students and the number of requests, because this can allows public educational funds to follow the students and the services that best service their needs, which can obviously be Worcester Public School, whether it be a teacher that is employed here and it's more convenient for their child to go here, but they don't live in our city. It also allows students to attend any district in the state. So with this, to me, it's dollars. It's not only fitting the students' needs, but it also affects our budget. So I think we should be reviewing that, and I look forward to the information. Thank you.
So we'll send that to FOMG. Those that oppose, no, so ordered. To modify the fiscal year 25 budget schedule to include a report on the proposed cuts to schools and personnel due to the fiscal year 25 budget deficit at the April 25th, 2024 school committee meeting or an executive session. Member Belinda?
Really, as it reads, the reason I'm putting it there is that I'm sure all of us have received phone calls and run into staff that are very worried about what's going to happen with the budget cuts. So I was just wondering, even executive session after the vacation at that meeting, if we could just have an idea of what the plan was for budget cuts. I believe at the May meeting, there's a budget presentation that's going to happen, but I just feel as though it would be advantageous to know what is going to be planned for what's going to happen with, if there are any budget cuts, which it seems like there's going to be. Thank you.
That's awesome, Maureen.
Through the chair. So I know that the ROS calendar does not show May 2nd as a date that we would bring information on budget and kind of process and recommendations and timeline. But that is the plan. So May 2nd was when we would bring forward broad strokes, because to talk about individual personnel in any location is not in the purview, but how we got to where we're going, timelines on notifications, those type of things. That's coming on May 5th. Prior
Yeah,
to
we'll be
that,
reading that in Ray Mariano's column.
Too quick of a turnaround.
day
We will
after he
have
does.
things done by the end of, before break. And then we have the ROS on climate and culture on the 25th. So I would ask that that the committee wait until May 2nd for to hear again broad strokes, process, timeline as it relates to budget reductions. And with a deficit of $22 million, we will have budgetary cuts. There's no way around it. It's a deficit. Thank you.
Through
Member
the chair,
Belinda?
I'm amendable to change that date, but would still like the item to go forward with the May 5th date. May 2nd date, May 2nd date.
Okay. Member Millman?
Just to clarify, that'll be a public report to this body. I don't think we can do budget discussion in executive session, if I recall. Is that correct?
Correct.
Through the chair. No, the executive session, that's not one of the 10 items that can be discussed in executive session.
So that's a report you'll.
It's
put
a
on the
report of the
floor.
superintendent that will come forward and in that report, we will get to, we're not going to talk about specific schools. We're not going to talk about specific personnel. We're going to go over broad, how we got to where the recommendations that will be brought forward in the budget book and processes and timelines behind that.
Thank you.
So we'll come back on May 2nd with the report of superintendent. Right, all set? Those that oppose, no, so ordered. So that's it. Announcements, we have our standing committee on teaching and learning on April 22nd. We have our next meeting on the 25th. And then we have standing committee of finance and operations on April 29th. Good. Motion to adjourn. Those that oppose, no, so ordered. Thank you.
Well, Bill,
Wow. So
you have a chicken.
just true. I have a chicken and I am so excited to go eat it. But before we do that, another stellar night for Maria Benanda, and then Diana B and Carrie S7 in there at the end. But I mean, over the course of like a half hour there, she violated the conflict of interest law yet again. Potentially put the school committee in like a lawsuit situation vis-a-vis the union. And what else happened? Oh yeah, we did East Middle again. So that was great. That was very, very fun.
Her and Maureen and Diana Donna Colorio should think about getting together on their weeks that they're both on together and coordinate how to best tank their own goals.
Yeah, I think that they're very similar. I mean, watching Colorio, Diana B and Carrie, Maria Benanda, that's sort of like the level of competency we've maybe expected in the past from our Worcester City officials, but luckily we have some people in place right now that are doing a lot better than them. So that's encouraging, honestly. That they look as dumb as they are is good, because it would be harder to see that if it was, we're in a situation where it's just Maureen as superintendent.
And it's frustrating too how long it sometimes takes for a process to weed out the people that are there just to stir the pot. But this is a great example of how sometimes you just have to be patient and let the process allow people to show who they really are. Hopefully, in another year and a half, people will realize that Maureen was a complete waste of time, and they should rethink her past as well as her future.
Yeah, because she's just been consistently embarrassing.
It's awful.
Yeah, like just it's embarrassing to watch it. It's like, okay, this is the city I cover. It's like this is the talent of people that are in the city that I do all of my writing work in. It's like reflects poorly on all of us that they're like this. And you know what? For me, that's a great place to end it because I am starving.
Yes.
And it's time to go eat chicken.
Everyone have a great night.
Everyone, Maureen is not even just interim. She's like a full-time superintendent at East Hampton, I believe. So that's amazing. Good for them. They did a good job hiring her. Yeah. All right. So have a good night, everybody. We will be back on Tuesday. Check your email if you sign up for the book club. You should have an update in there. If not, I'll be posting the same update in my newsletter on Sunday. So you will get it. You can get it there or anywhere. So that's going to be fun. That's on April 18th. I don't know, Brendan, you have anything that you'd like to plug?
No. I too just want to go eat and forget this ever happened.
Yeah, I think thank you so much, everyone that hung out with us tonight. Great comments as always. And we had some productive conversations, and also, we were able to commiserate when when it got dark there for a bit. Yeah, have a great weekend, everybody, and we will see you again on Tuesday. See you next Tuesday.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye.